Chapter 1255. Indestructible Body. This was the fifth stage of the chaotic Vajra spell. If not for luck, it would have been impossible for him to reach this realm. The chaotic Vajra spell was a cultivation technique of the Witch clan. The Witch clan was strong, so they cultivated this kind of ability. However, very few people had reached the indestructible body realm. The Witch clan elders were the best of the best, but they had only cultivated to the diamond body. The Witch clan members all pursued an indestructible body. But this time Tang Zheng had managed to cultivate it. If the Witch clan knew about this, they would definitely cheer and celebrate with the entire clan. Tang Zheng stopped screaming, and the heart-wrenching feeling gradually disappeared. However, his emotions had not calmed down yet. This was because the power of the golden dragon had caused other changes. Inside the dragon seal, the 8th dragon claw had already grown out. Tiny dragon scales covered the newly born dragon claw, shining with a brilliant golden light. 8th stage of the Dragon God Arts. Tang Zheng felt as if he was in a dream. He naturally understood what kind of situation this was, and his heart was in turmoil. The 8th stage of the Dragon God Arts meant that he could go to Langya to explore the 8th floor. What exactly was hidden inside was still something that Tang Zheng was extremely curious about. Actually, he had only just stepped onto the 6th floor of Langya. Back then, due to the time constraints, he did not even have the time to step onto the 7th floor. Now that he could step onto the 8th floor, the 2 floors of Langya were waiting to be excavated. This was indeed an exciting matter. He suppressed the anticipation in his heart and channeled the Dragon God Arts. The little golden dragon inside the dragon seal shook its head and wagged its tail, roaring towards the sky as a brilliant golden light burst out from the little golden dragon's body. In that instant, the golden light pierced through the dragon seal, through the layers of obstructions, and came out from his skin. He was like a dazzling sun, changing the halo from before and dyeing the surrounding sea golden. His eyes suddenly opened and a golden light shot out, forcing people to look away, not daring to look straight at him. When the others saw him open his eyes, they were both nervous and wanted to cheer. They didn't know if he was good or bad. However, the golden dragon was different. It could see the change in him with a single glance. The Dragon God Arts had actually broken through once again. This is because it absorbed my power. Of course, it understood the reason behind all of this and couldn't help but feel a little angry. It hadn't been long since it grew its 7th claw, and its power had yet to be fully consolidated. Now that it had lost so much of its power, it could be said that its vitality had been greatly damaged. Xianin, you really are a troublemaker. Even after you're dead, you still won't stop. You've harmed me again. If I had known that there would be this side effect, I would have made you die even more miserably, the golden dragon cursed. Tang Zheng also did not expect that the golden dragon would swallow Xianin. He had learned from his mistakes and knew that Xianin had a way to resist his soul-searching technique. The soul-searching technique was ineffective, and there was no way to seize information about the sky beyond heaven from her brain. Therefore, he did not waste his energy and let the golden dragon deal with it on its own. The golden dragon cursed in its heart as it observed Tang Zheng. It seemed to want to see what was different about him. Suddenly roar. Tang Zheng looked up to the sky and let out a long roar that sounded like a dragon's roar coming out of his throat, scaring the others. The whistling stopped and Tang Zheng calmed down. The golden light on his body and eyes faded away, leaving only a pair of embarrassed and spirited eyes. As long as it was someone who understood Tang Zheng, they would definitely be able to discover that his temperament had undergone an earth-shattering change. When Fang Shishir saw this, she hurriedly rushed over and asked with concern, "How is it?" Tang Zheng faintly smiled and held her hand, saying, "Everything's been taken care of." "You were so scary just then. I thought you would leave me," Fang Shishir said with lingering fear. After Tang Zheng comforted her, he turned to look at the golden dragon. The golden dragon also stared at him with wide eyes. "You've broken through to the 4th stage of the Dragon God technique." The golden dragon finally spoke. Tang Zheng nodded. "Yes, it's all thanks to you." The golden dragon was extremely conflicted. In the end, it let out a long sigh, saying, "Thank you for saving me." Tang Zheng did not take the credit and said with a bit of shame, "This is also my fault. If I had known that the moonlight essence would cause this kind of side effect, I wouldn't have let you swallow it. I don't regret it. She caused me to be imprisoned for several hundred years. Only by drinking her blood and eating her flesh could I vent the hatred in my heart," the golden dragon said through gritted teeth. Tang Zheng expressed his understanding. If it were him, he would have done the same. "You absorbed the moonlight essence. Is there anything wrong with your body?" the golden dragon asked curiously. Tang Zheng could absorb the moonlight essence and be fine, but it had almost died. The difference between them was obvious. The feeling of being compared to Tang Zheng was very complicated. Tang Zheng looked deeply at the golden dragon, and instantly understood what it was thinking and said, "This is related to the fact that I used the heavenly chest to absorb the power of the stars. The essence of the moonlight is a type of power of the stars, so I will naturally not suffer a backlash." The golden dragon nodded in understanding. Although it had already guessed the reason, hearing it from Tang Zheng's mouth still made it difficult to hide its complicated feelings. Back then, didn't the demon commander always want to consume the red crescent beast's core and obtain the ability to absorb the moonlight essence? Since you've absorbed Xuanin's moonlight essence, will you inherit her ability? The golden dragon suddenly had an idea and asked on a whim. A light flashed in Tang Zheng's mind. He had never thought about this question before. This sentence suddenly woke Tang Zheng up. He said with some expectation, "You're saying that I might also obtain Xuanin's ability?" If this was true, then it would definitely be an unexpected gain. The golden dragon was also not sure, saying, "It's possible. Why don't you give it a try?" Tang Zheng looked up at the sun hanging high in the sky and said, "It's broad daylight right now. The moonlight essence is not rich, so the test might not be accurate. You won't lose anything by giving it a try." The golden dragon also wanted to know the answer. The Empyrean fairy understood the conversation between the two. She was no stranger to the bizarre red crescent beast. If Tang Zheng really obtained Xuanin's ability, then it would really be a pleasant surprise. Fang Shishir also looked at Tang Zheng encouragingly. The person she loved had a series of fortuitous encounters and great gains, so she was happy from the bottom of her heart. Naturally, she also wanted to get to the bottom of this matter and be reassured. Yan Qingyi did not know the mystery behind it. She did not even know about the Shenin beast, but she was also very interested and looked at him with shining eyes. Seeing that the few of them were impatient to know the answer, Tang Zheng did not continue to refuse. He nodded and said, "All right, as you wish." He closed his eyes and quietly felt the power between heaven and earth. The heaven and earth spiritual qi was more abundant than on land. When it sensed his call, it quickly rushed into his body like a whirlwind. This was not what he wanted. He quickly stabilized his mind and urged his cultivation, trying to sense the moonlight essence. Chapter 1256. A strong sense of summoning was born. He seemed to have sensed the moon in the sky. Although it was broad daylight, the moon was still there. It was just that it was covered by the light of the sun. In the past, although he knew of its existence, he could not communicate with the moon and absorb the essence of the moonlight even if he looked at it with his own eyes. He could only do this with the help of the celestial chess. But this time it was different. He had a vague sense of the moon. He was very familiar with this feeling. In the past, when he communicated with the stars and guided the power of the stars to descend to the mortal world, he felt this way. He seemed to have understood something, and an indescribable joy flashed through his heart. Could it be that the golden dragon was right? Sure enough, there was a subtle connection between him and the moon. When he activated his power, a vast and mighty moonlight essence descended from the sky, passing through space and arriving at this part of the sea. In an instant, it was as if he was suddenly enlightened. He was enveloped by the essence of the moonlight. The vast and mighty essence of the moonlight rushed from the top of his head into his meridians, flowing towards his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Finally, it gathered at the top of his Yuanying's head, causing tiny flashes of light to appear on the outside of his Yuanying's body. I really absorbed the moonlight essence. Tang Zheng was as clear as a mirror. His joy was indescribable. The moonlight essence hovered for a long time. Suddenly, it swooped down and drilled into Yuanying's body. In an instant, Yuanying glowed, looking even more mighty and extraordinary. Tang Zheng blinked and an idea flashed through his mind. Since he had obtained Xuanin's ability, which was the unique ability of the red lunar beast, could he make specific changes to it? Since the moonlight essence was a kind of power of the stars, could he use this method to directly absorb the power of the stars? The essence of moonlight was too simple. The power of the stars was like a treasure trove, containing even more rare treasures. Once he could successfully absorb it, he would not be restricted by the celestial chess at all. He would be able to absorb the power of the stars anytime and anywhere for his own use, increasing his strength and cultivation. Before he had time to quietly feel the power of the stars, a strange scene appeared in the sky, attracting the attention of the other 3 people. The 3 pairs of eyes stared at the sky and exclaimed, "What is that?" "We have seen this scene in the capital before. It's the blood moon." The blood moon had appeared in the capital before. The Empyrean fairy knew it was because the red lunar beast had absorbed the moonlight essence. She did not expect to see it again in the sea. Everyone looked at this scene with mixed feelings, unable to speak for a long time. It was broad daylight and there was a sun in the sky. There was also a faintly discernible moonlight. This scene would definitely cause a big commotion. It would become the topic of discussion and research for countless people. Tang Jing did not take it to heart. He continued to channel his power, absorbing the power of the stars in the sky. The stars were very far away from each other. As Tang Jing channeled his power, these stars emitted a dazzling light. They passed through the distant space and were faintly discernible in the sky. However, the sky was too far away. The light of these stars was not as strong as the moonlight. Ordinary people could not see them at all. She could see through people who weren't ordinary clearly. The Empyrean fairy and the others were the first to see this scene. Their power was not what it used to be. They were not ordinary people. What's going on? They muttered in their hearts. In the past, when Tang Jing used the celestial chest to channel the power of the stars, it was always at night. No matter how bright the stars in the sky were or how extraordinary they were not easy to discover. Or perhaps it was too easy to overlook them. Now that they had appeared in broad daylight, it was extraordinary. Naturally, it would attract the attention of those who were interested. It was not just the Empyrean fairy and the others. On the ground, many people also discovered this scene, causing a large reaction. They all treated this scene and the appearance of the moon as a continuous event. As for what mysteries were involved, ordinary people could not guess at all. Everyone racked their brains, wanting to find out the ins and outs of this matter. As for the person involved, he was still immersed in a wonderful state. When he stopped absorbing the power of the stars, the strange scene in the sky gradually disappeared. He raised his head and looked. He shook his head slightly and said with a sigh, "Although this technique is good, it may not be a good thing to cause too much of a reaction." When the others heard this, they speechlessly rolled their eyes. This was showing off after receiving benefits, being picky and picky. Seeing their reactions, Tang Jing could not help but laugh. He also knew that he had been too greedy. So many people had tried to obtain this ability. He had only been able to intermittently absorb the power of the stars with the help of the celestial chess. Now he was not restricted by the power of the stars at all. He could freely absorb the power of the stars at any time. In the future, once he absorbed more and more power of the stars, his cultivation would definitely rise to another level. This would open up a fast track for his cultivation. It was something worth celebrating. The Empyrean fairy gradually calmed down and asked, "What happened to your body just now?" With 3 pairs of eyes watching this scene, Tang Jing had no way of hiding it. Moreover, they were not outsiders, so he might as well tell them the truth. When they heard about everything that had happened in his body, as well as the many changes that had occurred, everyone was dumbfounded. This series of fortuitous encounters was too much for them to handle. The Empyrean fairy looked at him with a complicated expression. As a person who pursued strength, she wished that she could have the same kind of luck as Tang Jing. Tang Jing did not understand the significance of lightning tempering the body, so he calmly said, "No need to make a fuss. This is not a big deal." If this was not a big deal, then what was? The few of them wished they could just blurt out and question him. Seeing the strange looks in everyone's eyes, Tang Jing's heart moved. He asked, "Could it be that there is some kind of mystery behind this? Lightning tempering the body has existed since ancient times. But for you to produce lightning in your body for no reason and use it to temper your body, this is something that I have never seen before," the Empyrean fairy said in a low voice. After a slight pause, she added, "No, this should be something that has never been heard of before." Tang Jing was slightly startled. Although he had never seen lightning tempering the body before, he did not think that it was too rare. After hearing the Empyrean fairy, she realized that this matter was far more complicated than she had imagined. But one thing was for sure for him, there were no disadvantages, only advantages. Chapter 1257. The thought flashed through Xuanin's mind, but she didn't put it into practice. Tang Jing realized the extraordinary power of the purple lightning body tempering and rejoiced. All of this was caused by the essence of the moonlight. He had absorbed the power of the stars before, but it was too little after all. It couldn't be compared to the moonlight essence that Xuanin had spent hundreds of years absorbing. "I'll definitely absorb more power of the stars in the future. I don't know how many chain reactions there will be. I'm really looking forward to it." After the interlude with Xuanin, everyone was unable to calm down. After saying a few more words, the golden dragon returned to Tang Jing's arm. Everything was calm and peaceful. The few of them accompanied each other as they left the sea and set foot on their journey home. Not long after they left, a person suddenly appeared in this calm sea area. If Tang Jing saw this, he would definitely cry out in alarm. This was the dragon slayer he saw in the illusion of Langya Pavilion. He had come to this world through the spatial door earlier. He sensed the existence of a dragon, which was the golden dragon. In addition, he also sensed a looming and ethereal dragon. This was something that had never happened before. It shocked him. He decided to follow the clues and find these two dragons. He first followed the clues of the golden dragon and followed it here. Especially when the golden dragon appeared just now and roared. The others didn't notice it, but he did. However, he was still a step too late. Looking at the calm sea, he knew that he had missed the golden dragon. This also confirmed one thing, and that was that he was not chasing after the wrong dragon. There was indeed a golden dragon. There were only two dragons in this world, so there must be a connection. If he found this golden dragon, he could naturally find the other one. This was killing two birds with one stone. Of course, he wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He looked in the direction where Tang Zheng and the others disappeared, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a complacent smile. He muttered to himself, "Little golden dragon, I will find you very soon. After absorbing your dragon soul, I will become even stronger." Whoosh! His figure flashed and disappeared. In the next second, he seemed to have appeared in the sky. His speed was so fast that it made people speechless. Tang Zheng and the others finally returned to Beijing. The others came out of Sumeru world and parted ways. Yan Qingyi left with Yan Luyun and the crew. When Yan Qingyi returned to the Yan family, Yan Padian had already heard a few words from Yan Luyun, especially regarding Yan Qingyi's various miraculous encounters, causing Yan Padian to be unable to sit still. Therefore, he personally went to the door to welcome his daughter back. This was a supreme honor. The other people who didn't know the reason all looked at him. "Father, I'm back." Yan Qingyi looked at her father and said calmly. Yan Padian excitedly took a few steps forward, held her hand and said, "Qingyi, you're finally back." His eyes stared at Yan Qingyi, as if he wanted to find out what was so special about her. In the end, he came to the conclusion that other than his daughter's calmer temperament, which was like an ancient well that made people unable to figure out her, there was no obvious change in other aspects. He did not doubt the news that Yan Luyun had sent back. He knew that his daughter must be too profound, which was why he was unable to see through her. He was extremely excited. He had never interfered with Yan Qingyi's decision. If not for this love, as a disciple of an aristocratic family, how could Yan Qingyi be so leisurely and do whatever she wanted? Without a doubt, if he had stopped Yan Qingyi, there was a high chance that she would not have achieved what she had today. A sense of honor arose spontaneously and filled his heart. He accompanied his daughter to the inner room with a red face. The other unrelated people all retreated. Everyone outside the room had been evacuated, leaving only the four core members of the Yan family. Yan Qishan also looked at his sister with mixed feelings. Of course, he was not jealous, he was only happy for his sister from the bottom of his heart. All these years, Yan Qingyi's actions had attracted many people's slander and supercilious looks. Many people talked behind his back and discussed animatedly. As members of the Yan family, their feelings were naturally the most profound. They wanted to clear Yan Qingyi's name, but the matter of prophecy was too mysterious. Most people would not believe it, and it was not suitable for them to spread it out. Therefore, they could only hide it in their stomachs. Now all of this had taken a huge turn for the better. Everyone couldn't wait to hear Yan Qingyi talk about the mysteries and mysteries behind it. Just what kind of fortuitous encounter did she have that could cause such a world-shaking change? After Yan Qingyi sat down and saw the urgency in their eyes, he understood what they were thinking. He smiled calmly and said, "If you have any questions, just ask. As long as it's something that can be said, I will definitely tell you." Her attitude towards her family and others was clearly different and different. This was human nature. Yan Qishan and Yan Luyun looked at Yan Padian at the same time. He was the patriarch, so this question could only come from his mouth. Yan Padian muttered to himself for a few seconds, then asked, "I heard that you inherited Fushi's Tao intent. Is this Tao intent really that powerful?" The few words that Yan Padian had sent back from Yan Luyun were not enough to understand the mystery behind it, so he broke the pot and asked until the end. Yan Qingyi looked deeply at her father, then looked at the impatient eyes of the other two and muttered to herself, "Because you are family, there is a sentence that is not suitable to be publicized. I can only tell you that after hearing it, you can pretend that you have never heard it before and completely forget about it. Do you understand?" Seeing her speak so cautiously, the faces of the few people sank at the same time. They were incomparably serious, and the wrinkles at the corner of Yen Potion's eyes also deepened. Qingyi, tell me. I guarantee that other than the few people present, no one else will know. Yen Padian patted his chest and swore to his daughter. Yen Qingyi chose to believe in her father, so she said tirelessly, I have not only inherited Fuxi's Dao intent, that is just an excuse to deceive others. Tang Zheng has indeed inherited the genuine Fuxi's Dao intent, but what he has obtained is far less than what I have. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Even the Fuxi Dao intent that Tang Zheng had inherited was not powerful. Being judged by Yen Qingyi like this, it was definitely not wrong. Then how rich was her harvest that she dared to boast so shamelessly? The others all looked at Yen Qingyi in anticipation, looking forward to hearing a shocking answer from her mouth. Yen Qingyi had indeed lived up to their expectations. In a word, she had said some earth-shattering words. The Fuxi Dao insight is only a type of Dao insight. What I inherited is the true Dao insight, and it wasn't mixed with all sorts of nonsense. It's the grand Dao of the heavens and the earth, and it's far more formidable than the Fuxi Dao insight. Yen Qingyi's words were earth-shattering, shocking the others to the point that they were dumbstruck. So there was such an inside story. What she had inherited, or rather what she had obtained, was far greater than all of this. Today there is only one chapter. It will be recovered tomorrow. Chapter 1258. Yen Potion's chin was about to fall to the ground. The so-called Fuxi Dao intent, the great Dao of heaven and earth, was something that he had never heard of before. Are you saying that you got more things than Tang Zheng? Yen Padian digested it for a while and asked hesitantly. In his heart, Tang Zheng was practically invincible, an existence that could not be defeated. Now his daughter had obtained even more things than Tang Zheng. This was something that he did not dare to imagine. He looked at his daughter again as if he had never known her before. Yen Qingyi understood her father's feelings and said, Yes, Tang Zheng got less than me. Aren't you an ordinary person? Why did you get more than Tang Zheng? Yen Qishan finally could not help but ask. As an elder brother, he understood his sister very well. His thoughts were similar to his father's, and he could not believe that all of this was true. Although Tang Zheng is a cultivator and is powerful, his identity is very awkward. He does not have the chance to inherit the great Dao of heaven and earth, the supreme Dao intent. Yen Qingyi said somewhat proudly. The others still found it hard to come back to their senses. There is no free lunch in this world. You have inherited the great Dao of heaven and earth. Do you have to do something? Yen Qingyi looked at his father with admiration. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Needless to say, he had already guessed the crux of the matter. She did not hide anything and admitted generously, Yes, preaching to the world is what I want to do. Preaching to the world? Like those preachers? Those are all bluffs. The Tao I want to impart is the true great Tao of heaven and earth, allowing everyone in the world to become believers. Yen Qingyi's face revealed a resolute expression. The others looked at her as if she was a madman. Why did so many changes happen after going to the gate of heaven? It was as if she had become a completely different person. Yen Qingyi looked at their expressions and said, I know what you're thinking. There's no need for you to do anything about this matter. I've come back this time mainly to give you some instructions and then I'll leave. The few of them were shocked and quickly asked, Where are you going? Preaching the Tao to the world naturally means traveling thousands of miles. In the past, my methods were too limited. To truly comprehend the great Tao, one should walk out. The ancients said that it is better to travel 10,000 li than to read 10,000 books. There is a certain reason for this. Yen Qingyi said without hesitation. The others thought she was even crazier. Yen Qingyi's identity was special, and she didn't have the strength to trust a chicken. In the past, when she went out, there would be people to protect her. This time, she was going to travel thousands of miles and preach to the world. Wouldn't that be dangerous? As his father, Yen Padian naturally wouldn't sit idly by, so he refused without hesitation, No. Yen Qingyi didn't care at all and said, I've already decided. You don't have the power to protect yourself, how can you go out and adventure? Today is different from the past. In this society, cultivators and martial artists coexist, and it's even more dangerous. Yen Padian said worriedly. Yen Qingyi's gaze landed on Yen Luyun and said, Luyun, you saw me fight with Empyrean Fairy, you should know if I have the power to protect myself? Yen Luyun had never had the chance to speak. Seeing that she had asked him, he couldn't help but recall the scene in the Gate of Heaven. His heart trembled as he stammered, Grandfather, the battle between Ant and Empyrean Fairy left a deep impression on me. I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Ant can easily dodge Empyrean Fairy's attack, as if she can predict her movements in advance. This was the first time Yen Padian and Yen Qishan had heard of this situation. For a moment their brains seemed to have stopped working. In their impression, Empyrean Fairy was even stronger than Tang Zheng, but Qingyi was actually able to contend against her. Was this still the Yen Qingyi that they were familiar with? How was this still a powerless chicken? He simply had supreme means and completely outshone them. How did you do it? Yen Padian took a deep breath and asked in disbelief. This is the profoundness of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Although my fighting strength is equal to 0, I can predict her attack path. Since I can predict the enemy's advance, I will naturally be at a disadvantage. Yen Qingyi said calmly, as if he was talking about an insignificant matter. Is this because you know the prophecy technique? Yen Padian had an idea and asked. Yen Qingyi said, yes, this is the result of the evolution of the prophecy technique. I can predict the enemy's actions and then make the corresponding evasions. Naturally, no one will be able to hurt me. A huge wave rose in their hearts that could not be calmed down for a long time. The way they looked at her changed again and again. In the end, there were too many things mixed in their eyes that were hard to describe. If the prophecy technique has evolved, then can you predict the future? What will our Yen family become? As the head of the family, Yen Padian was more concerned about the development of the family. Father, you don't have to worry about this. With me here, the Yen family will definitely not fall. As for predicting the future of the Yen family, I am unable to do so for the time being. Didn't your prophecy technique evolve? Yes, but I can only predict the enemy's actions when facing the enemy and predict what will happen a long time in the future. Just like before, sometimes it doesn't work. Yen Qingyi said regretfully. However, I believe that I can successfully predict the future. It's just that I need a deeper understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth to be able to do this. Hearing these words, the few of them fell silent again. Could it be that they really wanted to let her spread the Tao to the world alone? They simply could not predict what kind of impact this would have. Yen Qingyi had already made up his mind, and he emphasized once more. I'll be leaving first this time. If all of you encounter any difficulties or danger, you can go look for Tang Zheng. He has inherited the Fushi Dao insight, and he'll have an enormous leap in strength. Wait a minute, don't you still have the soul of the Emperor of Heaven in your body? What should we do? The Emperor of Heaven's soul will naturally have a place to return to. You don't have to worry. As for the Empyrean Fairy, just tell her to wait for me to come back. After she finished speaking, she turned around and walked towards the door without waiting for them to react. The few of them looked at each other in dismay, and in the end, their gazes landed on Yen Padian. He let out a long sigh and said faintly, everyone has their own destiny. Since she has already decided, let her continue on her own. Yen Padian had set the tone. Even if the others had different opinions, they could only hide it in their stomachs. But I must give young Master Tang and the Empyrean Fairy an explanation for this matter. I will personally pay them a visit one day and explain this matter to them. Yen Padian made his decision and said, of course, the matter of the great Tao of heaven and earth and the preaching of the Tao to the world could not be leaked. She had to find a very appropriate reason to dispel the suspicions of others. When Tang Zheng returned home, the others were extremely excited. What a joyous scene, they kept asking questions at the same time. Xiao Bai seemed to be angry like a little wife. He laid on Tang Zheng's shoulder dejectedly. Tang Zheng knew what it was thinking. It was complaining that he did not bring it along with him this time. He spent a lot of effort to comfort it for a long time before the little fellow finally regained its vitality. When the Scarlet Moon Beast heard that Xianyin was dead and that it had gotten its revenge, it was so happy that it could not control itself. With a bang, it directly knelt in front of Tang Zheng. Last time, when Tang Zheng refused to let the Scarlet Moon Beast kill Xianyin, the Scarlet Moon Beast still had some complaints in its heart. Now that Xianyin was dead, although she did not die in its hands, it still meant that his wife's death had finally been avenged. The Scarlet Moon Beast kept kowtowing to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng quickly helped it up. Looking at the Scarlet Moon Beast's tear-filled eyes, he could not help but sigh. He felt that Xianyin deserved it even more. She had harmed so many people, she deserved to die. You have avenged my wife. I will remember this favor. The Scarlet Moon Beast said sincerely. If it had submitted to Tang Zheng previously because of Xiao Bai, it was much more sincere now. You are too kind. You have a close relationship with Xiao Bai. This is what I should do. Moreover, Xianyin deserved it. Tang Zheng said. I observed the strange phenomenon in the sky just now. You have inherited the ability of us Scarlet Moon Beasts to absorb the essence of moonlight, right? The Scarlet Moon Beast looked at Tang Zheng and asked. Yes. Tang Jing admitted generously. This ability is something that many people dream of. This is also one of the reasons why our Red Lunar Beast clan is becoming rarer and rarer. Some of us even went extinct. You are lucky to have inherited this ability. I hope that you will use it well. The Red Lunar Beast clan said earnestly. Tang Jing suddenly had an idea and asked, other than absorbing the essence of moonlight, can you Scarlet Moon Beasts also absorb the power of stars? The power of stars? The Scarlet Moon Beast was stunned. It did not understand and looked at Tang Jing blankly. In the end it shook its head and said, no. Tang Jing understood. It seemed that he had absorbed the power of stars with the help of the celestial chess. That was why he had this ability. As night fell, everyone else fell into a deep sleep. Tang Jing spent most of the day accompanying his family. In the dead of night, he rejected Lu Qingmei and the others' flirtatious glances and went to the training room alone. Since he had reached the 8th level of the Dragon God technique, there were 2 floors in the Langya Pavilion waiting for him to explore. The outside world was full of dangers and unpredictable dangers. All the more reason for him to take the time to explore the Langya Pavilion and see if he could find anything new. Today he needed more power more urgently than before. He planned to discuss with the Devil Race about strengthening the space gate between the 2 worlds. He needed to be strong enough. Only then would he be qualified to sit at the negotiating table. Qiyu and the Devil Race were powerful and could kill without batting an eyelid. If he was not strong enough, he was afraid that there would be no way for him to discuss this matter. He calmed down and circulated the Dragon God technique. With a flash of golden light, he appeared in front of the Langya Pavilion. The towering Langya Pavilion was still standing quietly in front of him. He raised his head and took a deep look at it. His heart was filled with anticipation. He walked over the threshold and walked in. He climbed up to the 6th floor in one breath. When he reached the 6th floor, the illusion did not appear again. It was obvious that it was only effective for the first time. He walked to the 7th floor and carefully stepped on the wooden stairs. He walked up to the 7th floor step by step. The 7th floor of the Langya Pavilion, here I come. A voice shouted in his heart. Author's digression. There will be a second chapter tonight. Chapter 1259. On the 7th floor of Langya, Tang Jing stepped onto the last step and stood firmly on the 7th floor. Although he had already stepped onto the first 6 floors, every time he stepped onto a new floor, he could not hide the excitement in his heart. What entered his eyes was a stretch of snow white. He was startled and did not understand what was going on. In the next second, a name flashed through his mind. White clouds. This large cloud that looked like cotton candy was actually the clouds in the sky, floating in front of him just like that. How could there be white clouds in Langya? He frowned and was confused. He stared at the white clouds in a daze, not knowing what to do. The surroundings were dead silent. There was no guidance at all. He hesitated slightly and walked towards the white clouds step by step. The white clouds did not move. He circled around the white cloud, not knowing where to start. This mass of white cloud left him with no idea what to do. He stretched out his finger and poked the white clouds. The white clouds were pressed into a pit. When he released his finger, the white clouds bounced back and returned to normal. This is interesting. His eyes lit up and he smacked his lips. The things in Langya were definitely not ordinary, especially on the 7th floor. It was definitely not ordinary. It was just that he had not figured it out yet. He was not a person who gave up easily. He knew that there were tigers in the mountain, but he still walked towards it. I don't believe that my hand can't rush in. He shouted and activated the Dragon God technique. A dazzling golden light flickered on his finger. He stomped his heel and rushed fiercely towards the white clouds. His outstretched finger was like a sharp sword. Poof! This time, his finger easily pierced into the white clouds. Then his entire body rushed into the white clouds. The surroundings were completely covered by the white clouds. He waved his arms with all his might, trying to chase away the white clouds so that he could see clearly what was in front of him. After waving his arms a few times, his eyes suddenly opened up. The blue sky was reflected in front of him. White clouds floated in the sky. It was a scene of white clouds high in the sky. He looked around and saw nothing but white clouds. What's going on? Why did I suddenly come to this world? He muttered to himself at a loss. Miraculously, he did not circulate his energy, nor did he fall from the sky. He looked down and could not see the situation below at all. Something strange. His heart was filled with awe and he became extremely alert. According to his past experience, although Langya contained treasures, it also contained dangers at the same time. If he was slightly careless, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Not to mention treasures, even his life would be difficult to protect. He walked forward step by step as if he was walking on flat ground. White clouds were scattered all around him. They were like jasper pearls sprinkled in the sky, adorning the blue sky. When he passed by a white cloud, it actually flew away with a whoosh. Tang Jing was shocked. He stared straight at the white cloud. He saw that the white cloud seemed to have a life of its own. It moved far away as if it didn't like Tang Jing coming close. What's going on? He was confused. With a thought, he walked toward another white cloud. Whoosh! The same thing happened. That white cloud also fled, as if it was afraid that it would be too late. He was stunned. He looked around and realized that the white clouds around him seemed to have grown pairs of eyes. They had been looking at him vigilantly. This feeling of being watched was very uncomfortable. It made him feel as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He snorted coldly and thought to himself, I don't believe that I can't figure out what's going on. He also had a little understanding in his heart. The treasures on the 7th floor of Langya must be related to these white clouds. The white clouds seemed to be a world. He had broken into this world, so he must have some gains in this world. Perhaps the so-called treasures were related to these white clouds. But first he had to catch a white cloud to solve the puzzle. I don't believe that I can't catch a white cloud. He looked around at the sparse white clouds. There were so many of them. It was impossible that he couldn't catch a single one. That would be too inferior. His feet swayed. Like lightning, his eyes locked onto the nearest white cloud. He rushed toward it with a whoosh. The white cloud seemed to have seen through his intentions. Seeing that he was about to get close, it flew away again with a whoosh. Tang Jing gritted his teeth. He was determined. He stared at the target without blinking. He thought to himself, if I don't catch you, my surname isn't Tang. His speed was also very fast. He was like a ray of light streaking across the sky. However, the white cloud was faster. Moreover, this white cloud was very smart. It used other white clouds as a shield and specifically hid behind them. The other white clouds also reacted quickly, but they were always one step slower than this white cloud. Although they didn't want to be a shield, they still couldn't get what they wanted in the end. That white cloud was like a fairy, shuttling back and forth among the white clouds. Moreover, its shape was no different from the other white clouds. It was easy for Tang Jing to confuse it. It seemed to be deliberately playing with Tang Jing, knowing that he couldn't catch up with it. Huff huff. Tang Jing chased after it for a long time, panting heavily. But in the end he was still helpless. He could only watch as the target hid here and there. He was helpless. Seeing that Tang Jing stopped chasing, the target also stopped. Seeing that Tang Jing didn't catch up with it for a long time, it actually swaggered back. Tang Jing's eyes widened. He shouted, "You're really a demon, aren't you? How dare you play with me?" The target swayed a few times as if it was showing off. Tang Jing gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. This white cloud was like a child. It was very playful, but its strength couldn't be underestimated. He muttered in his heart, "What's the use of this thing hidden in the 7th floor of Langya? What's so special about these white clouds to him?" Other than running fast, there didn't seem to be any other characteristics for the time being. Could it be that there was an extraordinary treasure hidden in the white clouds? He couldn't guess. Everything could only be revealed when he caught the white cloud. He had been played with by this white cloud for so long that he had long recognized it. He directly ignored the other white clouds. If he didn't catch it, he would never give up. He panted and pretended to be exhausted. But from the corner of his eyes, he glanced at the target and found that it had swaggered back to not far away from him. It seemed to be sure that Tang Jing couldn't catch up with it, so it became very unscrupulous. Tang Jing had an idea and a plan came to his mind. Although this white cloud ran fast, its wisdom was obviously not comparable to a human's. Obviously, the white cloud was careless and swaggered back. It fell into the trap. Tang Jing deliberately bent his body and panted heavily. But from the corner of his eyes, he kept staring at the white cloud. He saw that it was bold enough to come to a place only a few steps away from him before stopping. Then it seemed to be sizing him up. Tang Jing's eyes flashed and he secretly shouted, "I've been waiting for this." Chapter 1260. Like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, Tang Jing pounced on the white cloud, but a strong elastic force bounced back, trying to shake him off. Tang Jing finally caught it, so how could he just let it go? So he grabbed it firmly with both hands, his fingers digging into the cloud. The white cloud struggled madly trying to get rid of Tang Zheng. However, Tang Zheng would not let go no matter how hard the white cloud struggled, to no avail. Tang Zheng was competing with the white cloud, thinking to himself, I can't control you. With a stomp of his foot, Tang Zheng's body immediately stabilized, as if his legs were rooted in the sky, firmly trapping the white cloud. However, this advantage did not last long. The white cloud flew up with a whoosh, jumping up and down. Ah! Tang Zheng cried out in surprise. A strong airflow poured into his mouth, forcibly stopping his scream. His eyes widened, understanding the white cloud's intention. You think you can get rid of me like this? Dream on. Tang Zheng secretly gritted his teeth, letting the white cloud drift around. He was like a tail swinging here and there. If it was a normal person, they would have been flung away by this fierce force. However, Tang Zheng's fingers were locked in the white cloud, not giving it a chance to break free. Both parties were in a deadlock as if they were competing for patience. After an unknown amount of time, the white cloud slowed down as if it was exhausted. Tang Zheng's expression was not good, and he could not hide his exhaustion, but his eyes showed the light of victory. He finally won. Although no one announced his victory like the referee, he knew he had won. He had survived the white cloud's resistance, so he had won. The white cloud regained its calm, like a defeated soldier, dejected, flying slowly in the sky. Tang Zheng's entire body was lying on top of the white cloud, soft as if he was lying on a soft bed. This feels really good. He lazily lay on the white cloud looking at the sky. There was no sun, only clouds. Suddenly his vision blurred, and the other white clouds disappeared, leaving only this one white cloud. 3 snow-white words appeared in his mind. Somersault cloud. Tang Zheng looked at the 3 words and read them out loud. He was shocked. What the hell was the somersault cloud? Whoosh. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, Bai Yunfei, who was underneath him, dashed out at an extremely fast speed, not at all slower than before. He subconsciously wanted to hold on to White Cloud, afraid that it would throw him off. However, his worries were unfounded. White Cloud was very peaceful. It was so stable that it was as if it was on land. There was not the slightest bump. Tang Zheng's eyes widened in astonishment as he stared at the white cloud beneath him. He seemed to have realized something. Could it be that the so-called treasure was this white cloud? He had tamed it and then it submitted to him? No one answered the question. Tang Zheng suppressed the excitement in his heart and prepared to find out the truth. White Cloud's flying speed is so fast, and I can stay on top of it without worrying about falling from the clouds. This means that it is like a means of transportation. Tang Zheng analyzed little by little and finally came to a conclusion. Can I control it on my own now? He was moved and decided to give it a try. To the left. He let out a shout. White Cloud, which was originally flying straight, turned to the left at a strange angle. Tang Zheng was almost shaken off. He patted his chest with lingering fear and his eyes shone brightly. Success, I can really control this somersault cloud. He laughed wildly and shouted, up. Whoosh. The somersault cloud flew up like a fighter jet suddenly rising. The angle was also very tricky as it soared into the sky. Tang Zheng did not have the feeling of falling from the somersault cloud. He seemed to have reached some kind of tacit understanding with the somersault cloud. No matter how the somersault cloud flipped, it was as if he was walking on flat ground. This made him even more surprised. He carefully stood up from the somersault cloud and no longer lay on it. However, he still did not fall. His feet seemed to be connected to the somersault cloud. He soared into the sky and enjoyed the extraordinary feeling brought by the somersault cloud. This was more comfortable and faster than the sword kinesis flight in the past. When he used the sword kinesis flight, he had to use his inner power to control Battle Soul. However, the somersault cloud did not need this at all. It also did not require him to use his inner power. It saved him energy and worry. The items in Langya Pavilion are indeed extraordinary. This somersault cloud is much better than sword kinesis flight. Battle Soul has fallen into Chi Yu's hands. It's just nice to use the somersault cloud as a means of transportation. It's just that the somersault cloud is so big. You can't just follow me like this. That would be too shocking. As soon as he finished speaking, he realized that the somersault cloud under his feet was changing. It was becoming transparent bit by bit. What's going on? Tang Zheng was shocked and exclaimed. The somersault cloud's change was very fast. In a short while, it was completely transparent and disappeared. Without the somersault cloud, Tang Zheng's head trembled and he fell rapidly from the sky. The wind whistled past his ears, making his heart tremble. Somersault cloud. Tang Zheng shouted. He was quick-witted. His falling momentum came to an abrupt stop. A white cloud stopped steadily under his feet, preventing him from falling any further. His eyes lit up as he understood another key point. It turned out that the somersault cloud could be summoned. When he did not use it, the somersault cloud would disappear automatically and not be visible to the naked eye. Only when he needed it, he just had to shout and the somersault cloud would appear under his feet. This was many times more powerful than sword kinesis flight. This is too surprising. He pressed his hand to his chest and could not calm down for a long time. He controlled the somersault cloud and flew in the sky. It was as if it was tailor-made for him. There was no discomfort at all. The feeling of being able to fly to his heart's content was unforgettable. There were so many white clouds in the sky just now. When I tamed the somersault cloud, those white clouds disappeared immediately. There must be a mystery behind this. Tang Zheng stood on the somersault cloud and held his chin with 2 fingers. He was deep in thought. Could it be that every Dragon Tribe member can choose one of those white clouds when they step onto the 7th level of Langya Pavilion? From there they can control the white clouds. Once one white cloud is tamed, there's no need for the other white clouds to exist. That's why they disappeared. His guess was very close to the truth. In fact, since ancient times in many legends and the knowledge of humans, the Dragon Tribe was inseparable from the ability to control clouds and rain. In terms of controlling clouds and rain, the other tribes could not be compared to the Dragon Tribe. In fact, this knowledge was not completely wrong. The Dragon Tribe was indeed very talented in controlling clouds and rain. When the Dragon Tribe reached a certain level and obtained the corresponding remarkable powers and treasures in Langya Pavilion, this skill could be displayed perfectly. The ability to control clouds was the key point. The 7th level of Langya Pavilion was a sky of clouds. After every Dragon Tribe member entered the sky of clouds, they would tame one of the white clouds. From there, they would understand the remarkable powers of controlling clouds. This was the foundation for the ability to control clouds and rain. However, there was one thing that Tang Zheng did not know. When the Dragon Tribe tamed a white cloud, these white clouds were not the somersault cloud. The somersault cloud that he tamed was very special. It was completely different from the other white clouds. In the past, some Dragon Tribe members had encountered the somersault cloud by chance and tried to tame it. However, in the end they returned without success. In the end, a rule was passed down among the Dragon Tribe. One should never try to tame the somersault cloud in the sky of clouds. That would be a waste of opportunity. This was because the Dragon Tribe only had one chance to enter the sky of clouds. If they failed to tame the white clouds, they would lose the chance to tame the white clouds forever. In the future they would not be able to control clouds and rain. Without this remarkable powers, how could they be called the Dragon Tribe? Tang Zheng did not have anyone to guide him. He was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers. Therefore he was not afraid of anything. By chance he encountered the somersault cloud. In the end, with his extraordinary perseverance and strength, he finally tamed the somersault cloud. This was something that many Dragon Tribe members dreamed of. However, after being taught a hard lesson by countless Dragon Tribe ancestors, they all chose to follow their ancestors' instructions and not daydream about taming the somersault cloud. As the saying goes, fortune favors fools. No one would have thought that Tang Zheng would be able to tame the somersault cloud. When he was done tossing and turning in the sky, he slowly came to a stop. However, a ripple appeared in the sky. This ripple was like a stone thrown into a lake. The ripple spread out and the sky began to fluctuate. The scene in front of him slowly became illusory. Before he could react, the scene in front of him changed abruptly. The sky disappeared and so did the somersault cloud. He was back in the Langya Pavilion. In front of him was a white cloud. He was standing in front of the white cloud. Without a doubt, this white cloud was definitely not the somersault cloud. His hand gently touched this white cloud. It was as if he wanted to return to the illusion just now. In the end he realized that it was all in vain. His fingers could not poke into the white cloud at all. Even if he used all his strength, it was all in vain. He gradually understood that the illusion just now could only be entered once. He was not a greedy person. Since things had come to this, he did not wish to go in again. Moreover, he now had the somersault cloud. This was his greatest gain. He looked down at his feet. It was the floor. With a thought, he called out, "Somersault cloud." In the blink of an eye, there was a snow-white cloud under his feet. If it was not the somersault cloud, what else could it be? He had successfully brought the somersault cloud out of the illusion. His eyes lit up. He could not wait to leave the Langya Pavilion and test the power of the somersault cloud in the real world. When the time came, he would not have to worry about being discovered by other enemies or fighter jets when he rode the somersault cloud in the sky. He could hide perfectly in the clouds. How would his enemies expect him to hide in a white cloud? This was an excellent way to hide his tracks. However, he eventually suppressed his restless thoughts. After carefully observing the somersault cloud, he made the somersault cloud disappear with a thought. He took a deep look at the white cloud in the middle of the 7th floor. Then he turned and walked to the 8th floor. At the staircase, he subconsciously stopped and looked up. Although it was only a dozen steps, he would definitely not be able to see the mystery above if he did not walk up. Therefore, he lifted his leg and stepped on the stairs. Chapter 1261. Thump, thump, thump. Tang Zheng crossed the stairs one by one and stood on the 8th floor of the Langya Pavilion. A humid smell assaulted his nostrils along with the sound of rain hitting banana leaves. It sounded like large and small pearls falling on a jade plate, ding-dang-dang, and it kept ringing. Tang Zheng was slightly startled. He did not expect such a big movement on the 8th floor. He was not frightened. Instead, he widened his eyes curiously and looked at everything in front of him. It was a heavy rain, and the rain fell from the endless sky. His feet were wet, and thousands of water lines spread to his feet from all directions. His gaze was solemn as he muttered to himself, "The 8th floor is rain. What's the mystery behind it?" He shook his head. He could not figure it out, so he could only walk forward. His feet landed on the water and water droplets splashed everywhere like pearls. He had only taken a few steps when he felt something. He turned around and saw that the stairs to the 8th floor had disappeared. He was standing in a world of rain. Undoubtedly, this was another illusion, but it was very real. The feeling of the raindrops hitting his face was no different from the real world. The Langya Pavilion is full of illusions. It's really impressive. I wonder which almighty dragon built the Langya Pavilion. He could not help but sigh. Since the 8th floor was rain, it must be related to the rain. He shuttled back and forth in the rain for a while, but he did not have any inspiration. The rain covered the world and there was rain in every corner. He could not lock onto a white cloud and use all his skills like he did on the 7th floor. This time, even if he had endless strength, he could not find a target and was at his wit's end. This was the worst situation. What should I do? He lowered his head and ignored the rain. The rain grew heavier and heavier. It hit his head, cheeks, and shoulders hard. He became a drowned rat. He could have activated his power to block the rain, but he did not do so because he wanted to sense the mystery. Instead, he completely exposed himself to the rain. After half a day, it was useless. He frowned and looked at the rain helplessly. He was at a loss. Just as he was at his wit's end and was about to go crazy, a white cloud gradually appeared in the rain. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted as he stared at the somersault cloud. He exclaimed to himself, "Why did the somersault cloud appear by itself?" The somersault cloud appeared on its own and revealed its tracks. Facing the downpour, it soared into the sky. Tang Zheng seemed to have understood something. With a leap, he jumped onto the somersault cloud. Like a beam of light, he flew into the sky towards the end of the rain. As far as the eye could see, there was no more rain in the sky. However, the ground was still covered in rain. "Somersault cloud, what do you want me to do?" Tang Zheng had a feeling that the somersault cloud was trying to give him some sort of hint. However, the somersault cloud could not speak, so it could only express itself with actions. Whoosh! A wind began to blow in the sky. The rainwater rose against the current, and instead of falling down, it floated up into the sky. Tang Zheng had never seen such an abnormal scene. Rainwater flying into the sky. If this was not strange, then what was? Before he could figure out what was going on, the rainwater rushed into the somersault cloud. The somersault cloud was like a person who drank a stomach full of water, rapidly expanding. Tang Zheng stepped on the somersault cloud and had the illusion that he was stepping on a swamp with water under his feet. Tang Zheng did not know what was going on, so he could only activate the Dragon God technique. The Dragon God technique was the key to everything. At his wit's end, using this technique should be the most effective and safest method. Sure enough, when he activated the Dragon God technique, there was a subtle change in the world. It was as if everything was still for 3 seconds. He could even see the rainwater in the sky solidifying. Tang Zheng was secretly delighted. The Dragon God technique was indeed effective. At the same time, a purple lightning bolt leaped out from Yuanying's body and followed his meridians to the surface of his body. Kacha! A sudden clap of thunder exploded in the sky. The purple lightning fell into the somersault cloud, and the snow-white somersault cloud was immediately dyed purple. Electric light scuttled through the clouds like agile electric snakes. It was as if a bolt of lightning had flashed across Tang Zheng's head. He was shocked, and a feeling of enlightenment arose spontaneously. His eyes lit up as he muttered to himself, "So that's how it is, so that's how it is. I was almost blinded by a single leaf." The corner of his mouth curled up, revealing a relieved smile. It turned out that the 7th and 8th floors were connected. The somersault cloud and the rainwater in the 8th floor were closely related. The dragon clan was particular about clouds and rain. He had a cloud, and that was the somersault cloud. Not only could he ride it for long distances, but he could also travel through the clouds. Summoning rain was naturally another aspect, and that was the ability that the 8th floor would bestow upon him. The physical body and the physical body were two inseparable parts that complemented each other. Only then would the somersault cloud automatically appear and fly into the sky. The rainwater that filled the sky would converge towards the somersault cloud. Such an anomaly seemed perfectly normal to him at the moment. The dragon god technique had awakened him. That lightning-like light was emitted from the dragon mark. He looked at the rich rainwater contained in the somersault cloud. He opened his hands wide and suspended them above the somersault cloud. After circulating the dragon god technique, an invisible force spread out from his palms and enveloped the somersault cloud. Water gathers clouds, clouds give birth to water. Lightning as the guide, clouds and rain. He muttered as he stretched out his hand and tapped the somersault cloud a few times. A few streams of energy flew into the somersault cloud. Kacha. A bolt of purple lightning split open the somersault cloud and fell from it, drawing a long purple line between heaven and earth. The sky seemed to have been split into two by this bolt of purple lightning. The terrifying pressure of the lightning made people shudder. Tang Zheng had seen the lightning released by the thunder cloud beast, and it was far less powerful than the purple lightning. He smacked his lips and clicked his tongue in wonder. This purple lightning formed from the essence of the moonlight is really a huge gain. It seems like I have to study it carefully in the future. He suppressed the many emotions in his heart and focused his attention on the scene in front of him. After the lightning fell, the rain in the sky poured down and sprinkled on the ground. The downpour was even heavier than before. As the rain pattered on the ground, pits appeared one after another. Water dripping pierces stone. His pupils shrank as he stared at the small pits. These were the pits formed by the rain. As the saying goes, water dripping pierces stone. This was the result of months and years of accumulation. However, the scene in front of him was completed in an instant. He could imagine how powerful the force contained in the rain was. The rain in the sky was like a fierce attack, causing people to raise their eyebrows. If it is a large-scale attack like the cloud summoning rain against the enemy, of course, it can't be underestimated. Waves surged in his heart. They were facing a lot of enemies now, and there might be more in the future. It was inevitable that there would be friction with the large army. Although the attacks were fierce, the area of effect was too small. This cloud summoning rain attack could be considered powerful as it could attack the enemy in a large area. I thought the cloud summoning rain attack was just for show and didn't have much power. I didn't expect it to have such power. This is really shocking. The dragon tribe is indeed the dragon tribe. Even the things obtained in the Langya Pavilion are so powerful, not to mention the various mystiques that I specially cultivated. However, he didn't know that although the dragon tribe had the cloud summoning rain attack, their attacks were far less powerful. He had such a shocking effect because he was strengthened by the power of the purple lightning. After the rain fell, there were densely packed small pits on the ground. It was more spectacular than the surface of the moon. He rode the somersault cloud and flew down from mid-air. The sky had cleared up. There was no more rain or lightning. The moment the purple lightning split the somersault cloud, it flew into the sky and merged with the earth. Tang Zheng's Yuanying could produce this kind of purple lightning, so he didn't care. If it was an ordinary person, they would probably try their best to get the purple lightning back. Looking at the densely packed pits on the ground, he could imagine how terrifying the power was just now. He took a deep breath and was greatly encouraged. He stepped on the small pits and walked forward step by step. He was like a general inspecting the fruits of victory, not letting go of any details. As he walked, the scene in front of him became ethereal. He was stunned and raised his head. The world in front of him had disappeared, and he had returned to the Langya Pavilion. The Langya Pavilion was empty, and there was not a single thing in it. However, everything that had happened just now was extremely real. He could imagine how much magical power was hidden in this seemingly empty place. The somersault cloud disappeared again. Tang Jing measured the floor underground with his feet and didn't find any clues. He could only give up. Anyway, he had already gotten what he wanted. He had learned the cloud summoning rain attack. When he activated the Dragon God technique, the somersault cloud would appear. Then water would gather into clouds, clouds would give birth to water, and with lightning as a guide, the cloud summoning rain attack would be completed. If there is a drought somewhere, I can use this method to resolve the drought. This is much more reliable than praying to the heavens for rain. Of course, this was just his wishful thinking. He looked around the 8th floor again and then walked down the stairs one by one. In the past, he would try to go to a higher floor. Now that he had repeatedly hit a wall, he understood the rules. If the Dragon God technique did not reach a higher level, it would be useless even if he was badly beaten. There was no way he could go to a higher floor. Instead, he would be kicked out of the Langya Pavilion because of his recklessness. He could only enter the Langya Pavilion again after a month. Tang Jing saw that it was still early. Since the Langya Pavilion did not kick them out, it meant that they could continue to stay in the Langya Pavilion. However, there was no place in the Langya Pavilion that he wanted to explore. Therefore, he left the Langya Pavilion step by step. When he raised his head and saw the huge horizontal board, a shadow flashed across his mind. It was an inverted tower. It was exactly the same as the Langya Pavilion, except that it was inverted. He remembered the Golden Dragon's repeated reminders to not go to the space outside the Langya Pavilion. He had already been there once and gained a lot. This time he still had time. Of course, he would not waste his time and opportunity. Chapter 1262. He walked in the opposite direction of the Langya Pavilion and went deep into the thick fog. The fog was the same as before, causing him to lose his sense of direction instantly. He followed the feeling he had previously. This was not the outside world but the Langya Pavilion. He could not fly, so his speed was not fast. He suddenly had an idea. Could he use the somersault cloud here? Thinking of this, he was excited and decided to give it a try. Somersault cloud. He shouted, and the somersault cloud appeared under his feet. Rise. At his command, the somersault cloud flew up smoothly at an extremely fast speed. It was like a whirlwind rushing into the fog, leaving a long trail behind. Suddenly, a mysterious feeling arose spontaneously. He was overjoyed as he knew that he was heading in the right direction. The reason he was searching in this fog was to find that feeling. Back then he was stepping on air, but he couldn't fly, so he quickly fell down. This time he had the somersault cloud and did not need to fall anymore. He could control his speed on his own. This is the place. He fixed his gaze on the fog below him. He stepped on the somersault cloud and swooped down. As expected, he had already exceeded the height of the ground, but he did not collide with any obstacles. Instead, he flew down smoothly. The somersault cloud is extraordinary. It is not restricted by the dragon seal and can move freely. In the outside world, it is probably even more powerful. He was excited and his eyes were filled with anticipation. Bang! With a dull sound, the somersault cloud collided with a hard object. However, the somersault cloud absorbed all the impact and did not hurt Tang Jing at all. He knew that this was the end. His vision suddenly opened up and there was not a single bit of fog. A huge inverted Langya Pavilion stood in front of him. I am finally here again. He jumped down from the somersault cloud, which disappeared without a trace. He walked into the Langya Pavilion step by step. After passing through the simple and unadorned door, the forest of steels was exposed to his eyes. This was different from the previous time. He knew how powerful the dragon soul was. It was something that dragon slayers dreamed of. Although these were only the steels on the first floor, each of them contained a dragon soul. Regardless of their strength, they were all vital to him. Once he absorbed the dragon soul, it would be greatly beneficial to the Dragon God technique. Tang Jing took a deep look and thought that the dragon slayer was really despicable. He was digging up the ancestral grave of the dragon clan to strengthen himself. No wonder the dragon clan saw the dragon slayer as their mortal enemy. If it were him, he would have done the same. Last time, Tang Jing had accidentally absorbed a dragon soul and gained a lot. But this time he did not plan to absorb a dragon soul. His relationship with the dragon clan was inextricably linked. Moreover, he had subdued the golden dragon, so how could he be so heartless as to absorb the dragon soul? He was not like the dragon slayer who had no bottom line and would do anything to make himself stronger. He went down to the 6th floor in one go. Last time he was blocked when he went down to the 6th floor. He guessed that this was related to the realm of the dragon god technique that he cultivated. It was like another Langya Pavilion. What cultivation level would one need to reach the corresponding floor? He successfully descended to the 6th floor, and his guess was completely confirmed. His heart was calm, and as far as the eye could see, it was a barren expanse of space. He took a step forward and the scene changed drastically. A simple and unadorned forest of tombstones appeared in front of him. He could only see the tombstones on each floor when he was in the middle of it. Each tombstone buried a powerful dragon clan cultivator. There were more than 100 tombstones on the 5th floor, but there were only about 80 tombstones on the 6th floor. This meant that the dragon clan cultivators buried on this floor were more powerful, and their dragon souls were more powerful. He subconsciously pressed his hand on a tombstone. Roar! With a dragon's roar, a golden dragon rose from the tombstone. It was shining with golden light and circled in the air, looking down at Tang Zheng. Although there was no trace of hostility, the dragon's might was still breathtaking. Tang Zheng had the dragon god technique, and his cultivation was not weak. Of course he would not feel uncomfortable. If it were others, they would have already prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move at all. On the contrary, the dragon chi in his body was also restless, especially the 8-clawed little golden dragon in the dragon seal. Its eyes were shining with an urgent look, as if it wanted to climb out and fly toward the dragon's soul in the sky. He forcibly suppressed this thought. He did not want to absorb the dragon soul. He just wanted to cross the floors and see if there was anything else in this inverted Langya pavilion other than the tombstones. He took a step back without hesitation, and his hand left the tombstone. The dragon soul in the air rushed toward the tombstone and circled around it. After a while it disappeared. Tang Zheng turned and left the 6th floor and continued to go deeper. There were only about 50 tombstones on the 7th floor. He followed the same pattern and observed the dragon soul again. It was indeed more powerful than the dragon soul on the 6th floor. His judgment was correct. With every floor down, the dragon soul hidden within would become even more powerful. However, he did not find anything other than the tombstones. He did not want to absorb the dragon soul, so looking at these tombstones was like suffering in his heart. This was like a foodie looking at a table full of delicacies, but he could not eat them. This was indescribably cruel. He let out a long sigh and hurriedly turned his head. He did not look at this tombstone forest anymore and resolutely went down to the 8th floor. If the 8th floor was also full of tombstones and there was nothing else, perhaps after his dragon god technique broke through in the future, he would not continue to wander around here. After all, for a cemetery, it was better to let the ancestors of the dragon clan rest in peace and not disturb them. Moreover, every time he passed by the tombstones and saw all kinds of dragon souls, it required a lot of willpower to resist this temptation. Bang bang bang. He walked down the steps one step at a time. When he finished the last step, his eyes were empty again. His heart sank. Could it be that the 8th floor was also a tombstone forest? He was not in a hurry to turn around and leave. Since he was here, he would go in and take a look to prevent himself from regretting it in the future. He crossed the threshold and went deep into the barren land. The scene in front of him changed again and tombstones appeared in front of him. The sense of vicissitudes from these tombstones was even stronger. He reached out and pressed his hand on a tombstone with ease. A dragon's roar sounded, and before he could react, the dragon's roar sounded one after another, resounding through the tombstone forest. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Golden dragon souls flew up from all the tombstones. There were only about 30 tombstones in this tombstone forest, and these 30 dragon souls rose into the sky, which was a magnificent sight. The dragon souls intertwined, connected head to tail and rotated rapidly. Golden light flickered, and it was so dazzling that he could not open his eyes. Tang Zheng subconsciously covered his eyes with his hand. After a while the golden light weakened. He finally moved his hand away. Suddenly his eyes widened. A dragon boat appeared in the sky, shining with golden light. There were lifelike golden dragons carved on the boat, and it was mighty and extraordinary. Author's digression. Today was the first time in my life that I received an infusion, and my first time was gone in the hands of the little sister nurse. Chapter 1263. The dragon boat floated in mid-air with an imposing aura. Just the dragon's might emitted from it was enough to make one have the urge to prostrate themselves before it. Tang Zheng frowned. How did the gathering of dragon souls turn into a dragon boat? He did not have time to think too much as the dragon boat flew toward him bit by bit. He subconsciously took a few steps back and looked at the dragon boat in shock. Suddenly, his eyes widened and fixed on the dragon boat. An old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion was standing on the dragon boat. Just now he was blocked by the dragon boat, so Tang Zheng did not feel it. At this moment, he realized that the dragon's might that made him revered did not come from the dragon boat, but from this old man. When such an old man appeared in the steel forest, Tang Zheng's attention was completely focused as he looked at him with a burning gaze. The old man's gaze was sharp as he looked at Tang Zheng with his divine sense and asked, "You're a human, but you've cultivated the dragon god technique of my dragon clan?" "Yes." Tang Zheng did not hide it. Under the old man's sharp gaze, there was no need to hide it at all. "Wonderful, wonderful." The old man stroked his snow-white beard and clicked his tongue in admiration. Tang Zheng frowned and asked, "What's so wonderful about it?" "You can be a surprise attack and win by surprise," the old man explained. Tang Zheng was even more confused. "Surprise attack? Who am I going to deal with?" "Our common enemy." When the old man said this, hatred flashed in his eyes. It was obvious that he hated this so-called enemy to the core. Tang Zheng thought that the only person who could make the dragon clan hate him to the core was probably the dragon slayer. Could it be that the old man wants me to deal with the dragon slayer? In his impression, whether it was the scene of the battle between the dragon slayer and the dragon clan in the illusion of the Langya pavilion or the golden dragon's description, the dragon slayer was a very powerful existence. Tang Zheng never thought that he would become an enemy of the dragon slayer. With his current cultivation, he did not have the confidence to defeat the dragon slayer. However, this was clearly what the old man meant. Thus he began to feel uneasy. "Elder, you want me to deal with the dragon slayer?" In response to Tang Zheng's straightforward question, the old man was gratified and said, "You also know about the existence of the dragon slayer, which means that you were sent by the heavens to the dragon clan. You are the best candidate to deal with the dragon slayer." "How can I be a match for a dragon slayer?" Tang Zheng pointed at his chest and asked. The old man shook his head slowly. "Don't belittle yourself. Your potential is far from being realized. You have to believe in yourself." Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. He didn't expect others to think so highly of him. "You don't understand me, but you want me to deal with the dragon slayer. Why do you think I agreed?" The old man looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze and said, "You must agree because you are already the target of the dragon slayer." Tang Zheng's pupils shrank as he vaguely guessed something. "Your dragon god art has been cultivated to its current level, and you also have a dragon soul. That is the goal of a dragon slayer. The dragon slayer will definitely not let go of a target like you." The old man's answer made all the hairs on Tang Zheng's body stand on end. Although he had guessed this point, hearing it from the old man's mouth still made him feel quite uncomfortable. The old man looked at Tang Zheng's reaction and continued, "But there is a huge difference between you and an ordinary dragon. This difference is what makes you a surprise soldier." "What's the difference?" Tang Zheng's eyes widened in surprise. "Although you have a dragon soul, because you are a human, the dragon soul will not appear like the dragon clan. This can also blind the eyes of the dragon slayer, making it difficult for them to find you." Tang Zheng looked pensive as if he had comprehended something. After the dragon slayer absorbs the dragon soul, because the dragon clan will have mutual feelings, the dragon slayer will also have this ability. However, he will not be able to truly sense your existence. At this time you can catch him off guard and kill him. Your wishful thinking is very good, but with my little bit of cultivation, how can I deal with the dragon slayer? I said before that you have great potential and will become very powerful. You have to believe in yourself," the old man emphasized. Tang Zheng fell into deep thought. Regarding the various actions of the dragon slayer, of course he was not ashamed. However, the other party was so strong. He wanted to seek justice for the dragon clan, but he was powerless. Moreover, the dragon slayer was very far away from him. Where could he go to seek justice for the dragon clan? As if seeing through his thoughts, the old man said, "You think too simply. I have a prophecy that the dragon slayer will find you very soon." Tang Zheng's heart trembled. He thought to himself, was it really that mysterious and serious? How could there be a dragon slayer in this world? "You cannot believe what I say, but the facts will prove everything," the old man said calmly. Tang Zheng's expression became very serious. He looked at the old man with mixed feelings and said, "Is there any basis for this?" "This is the result of gathering the abilities of all the dragon souls in this steel forest. The dragon slayer can sense the dragon clan, and the dragon clan is not a person who will sit still and wait for death. Therefore, in the past we also researched a method to sense the dragon slayer." "There's a method to sense the dragon slayer?" This was the first time Tang Zheng heard of this news. The golden dragon did not tell him this. "Yes, these are all things that we old things came up with when we were on our deathbed. We did not have time to pass them down to the younger generation," the old man said regretfully. Tang Zheng suddenly understood. No wonder the golden dragon did not know. We can teach you this method so that you can sense the dragon slayer. From then on, you will be in the light and he will be in the dark. It will be even easier for you to win by surprise. Tang Zheng was a little moved. It was not a burden to have more skills. Moreover, the old man said that the dragon slayer was coming. In this critical moment of life and death, how could he let his guard down? Once he had this ability, he could make preparations as soon as possible or avoid it in time. Wasn't the dragon slayer unable to see that he had a dragon soul? This way, wouldn't he be able to easily slip under his nose? Then, when he was unprepared, he could attack the dragon slayer. Perhaps he could really succeed. Senior, please bestow this ability to me, Tang Zheng said sincerely. The old man waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, I have more important things to tell you. You are the first person to come here after so many years. There are some things that I must tell you. Otherwise, those stupid Dragon Clan juniors will never be able to reach this place." Tang Zheng's heart moved. He seemed to have guessed something and asked tentatively, "Do you want to talk about this inverted Langya pavilion?" The old man looked deeply at Tang Zheng. He could not hide his praise and said, "You are really smart. You actually guess so much." After a pause, the old man sighed and said, "Yes, I want to tell you about this place. You should know that after the Dragon Clan dies, the dragon soul is not destroyed. The dragon soul is buried with the dragon body. However, back then, the dragon slayer searched everywhere for this kind of dragon soul and absorbed it to improve his strength. This is something that made the entire Dragon Clan very angry and hateful. In the end, we thought of a way, which is to build a large tomb inside the dragon seal and bury the dead Dragon Clan here. Langya Pavilion is a place that only the Dragon Clan can reach. Even if the dragon slayer absorbed the dragon soul, he would not be able to reach Langya Pavilion. Therefore, it is absolutely safe for the Dragon Clan to be buried here. Moreover, since ancient times when the Dragon Clan came to Langya Pavilion, their activity area was all limited to Langya Pavilion. They were not allowed to set foot in other places. This gave them a good cover. The Dragon Clan is very loyal and would not disobey the orders of their ancestors. Naturally, they would not come here. Back then, in consideration of the safety of all the dragon souls, we naturally did not tell the Dragon Clan that these tombs were buried here. Only people like you who are not part of the Dragon Clan can come here by chance. Therefore, you are the fated person. The Dragon Clan's hope is on you." At that moment, Tang Zheng felt that there was a heavy burden on his shoulders. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I'm not that powerful." The old man did not force him and continued to talk non-stop. "However, we neglected a problem. The Dragon Slayer is a powerhouse. They have absorbed so many dragon souls. Maybe some heaven-defying powerhouse can find a way to enter Langya Pavilion. There was once a Dragon Slayer who had this extravagant hope, but he did not succeed. However, so many years have passed. Maybe someone will think of a way. We have to be careful. This is the will of the heavens. You came here so we can be on guard. Only you know the secret of this place. You must not tell anyone else, including the Dragon Clan. From now on, you have an additional responsibility on your shoulders. That is to protect this place and protect these dragon souls from falling into the hands of the Dragon Slayer." Tang Zheng glanced at the tombstones with a heavy heart. Of course, he knew how serious the old man's words would be if they became reality. Although he had only explored the 8th floor, the number of dragon souls had already made him dumbfounded. Once a dragon slayer absorbed so many dragon souls, he could not imagine how powerful he would become. Tang Zheng swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, "If a dragon slayer comes here, how would I know?" "You don't have to worry about this. In a while you will be connected to this place. Once a dragon slayer comes here you will know." Tang Zheng suddenly understood. The old man hesitated and wanted to say something but stopped. Seeing this, Tang Zheng said directly, "If you have something to say, say it." The old man sighed heavily and said, "There is something I have to tell you. Although I don't have to tell you, our Dragon Clan is open and above board. If we don't tell you, it's not what the Dragon Clan would do." Seeing how serious he was, Tang Zheng immediately had an ominous premonition. He said nervously, "I'm all ears. Once you are connected to this place, once the Dragon Slayer breaks through here, if you are unable to stop the Dragon Slayer and allow him to absorb all the dragon souls here, then your life will come to an end." The old man's tone was very heavy, but it was not as heavy as Tang Zheng's heart after hearing this. His expression changed drastically as he looked at the old man in disbelief. If that was the case, wouldn't he be sharing the same fate as this inverted Langya Pavilion? Chapter 1264. From Old Man Zheng's reaction, it was clear that this matter had affected him greatly. 520520XS. La updates quickly. The website page is refreshing. There are few advertisements, no pop-up windows. I like this kind of website the most. I must leave a good review. Novel. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment, then asked hesitantly, "Is this really necessary?" The old man nodded seriously. "This is a place where the other dragons have yet to reach. You are the only one here, so you must be connected to this place. Then, once the dragon slayers arrive here, you will be the first to know." Tang Zheng didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Such a heavy responsibility was on his shoulders. This was related to the rise and fall of the dragon race and even more so to his own business. Of course, you can also refuse and leave this place. Pretend that this never happened and never heard of this matter. The old man couldn't hide his disappointment. Tang Zheng really wanted to say yes and agree, but in the end he didn't say it. Although he didn't flaunt himself as a noble person, he understood the seriousness of this matter. He cultivated the dragon god technique and was already the target of the dragon slayers. Moreover, as the old man said, once the dragon slayers absorbed the dragon souls in this steel forest, no one would be able to stop them. Did the dragon slayers really only target the dragon race? Not necessarily. Once a person or a race's strength reached a certain level, the corresponding ambition would also expand. They wouldn't just be limited to their current achievements, but would expand outwards. Once the dragon slayers destroyed the dragon race, what would they do? Could it be that they would cease all activities and disappear without a trace? Of course not. Their next target might be other humans, and it might even be Tang Zheng's world. Therefore, whether it was for public or private reasons, he couldn't sit idly by. Moreover, the golden dragon followed him. Once the dragon slayers attacked, the golden dragon would bear the brunt and its life would be in danger. Would he just watch it die? Of course he couldn't. Therefore, in this multiple-choice question he didn't have a choice at all. He said, "I promise you." The old man's eyebrows rose high and he couldn't hide his surprise. "You are deeply righteous, the entire dragon race will be grateful to you." Tang Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "If there was another way, maybe I wouldn't have agreed. I'm not as noble as you think. But in the end you agreed and I only—" The old man didn't nitpick. "What do we do next?" Once he agreed, Tang Zheng felt a lot more relaxed and relieved of the burden in his heart. The old man said solemnly, "The dragon race will not treat you unfairly and neither will I." This voice seemed to have a magical power, and it lingered in Tang Zheng's mind like a resounding bell, lasting for a long time. Tang Zheng's mind was shaken. He was confused by this voice and in an instant his mind calmed down. The old man stood on the dragon boat and turned into a beam of golden light. In an instant he rushed toward Tang Zheng. "This is a gift for you." The old man's voice echoed in his ears. Tang Zheng didn't have time to react before the golden light completely enveloped him. His pupils suddenly widened and he immediately understood what this meant. The old man and the dragon boat were both condensed from dragon souls, which meant that these golden lights were all dragon souls, and they were the dragon souls of this steel forest. Last time he accidentally absorbed a dragon soul, which benefited him greatly. This time he absorbed so many dragon souls in one go. He couldn't imagine what kind of reaction there would be. He became excited and his eyes even turned red. The old man's gift couldn't be said to be light, and it far exceeded Tang Zheng's expectations. He originally thought that the old man would give him a few pointers, but it wasn't this heavy gift. Immediately he felt the burden on his shoulders become heavier. He temporarily suppressed his fluctuating emotions and quietly felt the feeling of the dragon's soul entering his body. An ancient text appeared in his mind, and he only skimmed through it once before he understood the meaning of this text. It turned out that this text was about how to sense the existence of dragon slayers. In fact, this was the same principle as how dragon slayers could sense the existence of dragons. Since dragon slayers could sense the existence of dragons based on dragon souls, then they could do the opposite. If dragon slayers had too many dragon souls in their bodies, then dragons could naturally follow the map and sense the existence of dragon slayers. It is indeed amazing. This principle is easy to understand, but it is not easy to find the corresponding method to sense it. Therefore, according to what the old man said, it was a method that was finally summed up by a group of people. It is just that there is no time to pass it on to the next generation. Tang Zheng was in awe. This method wasn't difficult, and Tang Zheng understood it after pondering for a while. Then, his attention was firmly attracted by the dragon soul that was like a flood and ferocious beast. The strength of a dragon soul was not what ordinary people could imagine. After the golden light entered his body, it turned into dragon souls, and there were dozens of them in total. The dragon souls followed the 8 extraordinary meridians, limbs and bones, and rushed to every part of his body. Ah! He raised his head and let out a high-pitched cry that sounded like a dragon's roar. The feeling of the dragon soul swimming in his meridians was not good. After all, every dragon soul represented a powerful energy, and his meridians were only so wide. The dragon soul crashed in his meridians as if it was going to break through his meridians. Tang Jing thought bitterly the old man really dared to make a move. This gift was very generous and he wasn't afraid that he wouldn't be able to bear it and would directly die. Then wouldn't his plan be ruined? Of course, this thought only flashed through his mind, and he had no choice but to focus on dealing with the dragon soul. He hurriedly activated the dragon god technique, trying to use the technique to comfort or guide the dragon soul. Sure enough, this method worked. The dragon soul immediately became less restless. Under the guidance of the dragon god technique, a few of the dragon soul actually settled down in his meridians. He had a total of 9 main meridians, and these dragon souls were all immersed in the main meridians. When those few dragon souls settled down, the dragon souls settled down one after another. Even so, the energy contained in the dragon soul was too powerful. After settling down, his meridians could not completely absorb it. His meridians could explode at any time. If that happened, even if he did not die, he would lose a layer of skin. He gritted his teeth and held on. This time, if he did not die, he would live. Once he crossed this hurdle, his gains would definitely be proportional to the hardships and pain he experienced. Although he was in the dragon seal, in reality, his body and the dragon seal corresponded to each other. In reality, he was sitting cross-legged, and a faint golden light appeared on his body. Each of the main meridians contained a powerful dragon soul. The golden dragon was attached to his body and was the first to discover this abnormality. Especially since it was originally a dragon, it was very sensitive to dragon souls. It had an unbelievable change and only one voice echoed in its mind, "Why are there so many dragon souls in his body?" Chapter 1265. The golden dragon could not explain why there were so many dragon souls in Tang Zheng's body. He knew how important dragon souls were to the dragon tribe. A good novel. Since ancient times, there was no other place that could gather so many dragon souls other than the dragon tribe graveyard. However, the dragon tribe graveyard was attacked by the dragon slayer. Where did Tang Zheng find the dragon tribe graveyard? The golden dragon had so many questions but no one could answer him. He could only look at Tang Zheng, not wanting to miss any details. At the same time, the powerful dragon power spread out from the room and shocked everyone in the villa. The Empyrean fairy was sensitive and rushed out of her room. She lingered at the door for a while and opened Tang Zheng's door. When she saw Tang Zheng, her eyes widened. She was not from the dragon tribe, so she might not be as shocked as the golden dragon. However, she could guess how extraordinary this scene was. What's going on with him? Why is the dragon power so strong? It's even stronger than the dragon power from the golden dragon. She mumbled to herself and did not know what to do. Xiao Bai and the Red Moon beasts arrived one after another. Xiao Bai wanted to jump onto Tang Zheng's body to find out what was going on, but the Empyrean fairy stopped him in time. Xiao Bai, don't mess around. This is very important to him. The Empyrean fairy warned him seriously. Xiao Bai pouted and was unhappy. He could only look at Tang Zheng without blinking. The 2 Red Moon beasts, one big and one small, were in high spirits. They did not even blink as they stared at Tang Zheng. It seemed like they were trying to figure out what was going on. Fang Shishir and the rest did not care about their tiredness. They blocked the door curiously and looked at Tang Zheng worriedly. Finally, they looked at the Empyrean fairy. She had the highest cultivation level among all of them. Everyone wanted to know if she had any tricks up her sleeves. How could the Empyrean fairy not know what they were thinking? After pondering for a while, she shook her head and sighed, "Let's take it one step at a time. Everyone, you have to believe in him. He just inherited the Tao insight of Ancestor Fuxi, so he won't be in any danger." The Empyrean fairy's confidence in Tang Zheng was unprecedentedly high, so she encouraged everyone. Hearing this, everyone's hearts finally returned to their stomachs. They did not continue to dwell on this issue. Instead, they looked at him with interest, wanting to see what would happen. In the dragon seal, all the dragon souls gradually settled in the 9 main meridians, almost bursting the main meridians. Tang Zheng was well aware of the danger he was in, and hurriedly urged his power, trying to guide more dragon souls into the 9th main meridian. This main meridian had fused with the dragon vein in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. It was completely different from the other main meridians. Naturally, its endurance was incomparable. Sure enough, when the extra dragon soul settled down in the ninth main meridian, the main meridian did not show any signs of exploding. Instead, it flickered with a golden light. At this moment, Tang Zheng's body seemed to have become transparent. The ninth main meridian was clear and distinct, like a spine that ran through Tang Zheng's entire body. The others watched this scene in shock and looked at each other in dismay. Although there are quite a few dragon souls in the ninth main meridian, the energy of these dozens of dragon souls is still too strong. I am still in great danger, so I have to think of a way to restrain the energy of these dragon souls so that they won't explode immediately. This way I can slowly digest the dragon souls in the future. In the face of danger, he thought of a solution for himself. However, how could it be a simple matter to restrain the energy of these dragon souls? Since the chaotic Vajra spell has reached the indestructible realm, then my body will not explode from the dragon soul for the time being. Therefore, I have to have a little confidence. I can only continue to activate the Dragon God mantra and see if there is any hope of restraining the dragon soul. After some analysis, he came to this conclusion. This was a gamble, but he firmly believed that he would win. The old man had put in a lot of effort, so it was impossible for him to be finished just like that. The Dragon God mantra could restrain the dragon soul, but that was only for a short period of time. When the dragon soul had settled down in the main meridians, the dragon soul did not stay calm. Not long after, the energy of the dragon soul exploded, and it was a one-time explosion. Other than the ninth main meridian, the other 8 main meridians were actually in danger of being torn apart. Ah! He subconsciously let out a blood-curdling scream, which affected the hearts of everyone else. Why is he in so much pain? Is he in danger? Yi Dingdang and Wu were such calm people, but it was hard for them to hide their panic as they impatiently asked. Xiao Bai was ready to make a move and wanted to rush forward. The mysterious maiden of the 9 heavens was also a little uncertain. After all, she didn't know much about the dragon clan. Shwa! A golden light shot up into the sky from Tang Zheng's arm. The others only felt that the golden light was dazzling, and then they realized that the golden dragon had flown up from Tang Zheng's arm and was circling above Tang Zheng's head. The golden dragon's expression was extremely complicated as it looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. The others did not understand what was going on, but when they saw the golden dragon appear, they immediately asked him for a way to save him. There are too many dragon souls in his body, and this is an extremely powerful energy. His body might not be able to withstand it, and if it is not channeled, he might not even need to wait for the pure yang energy to erupt, and he might explode from the energy of the dragon soul. The golden dragon bluntly pointed out the crux of the problem. Dragon soul. The others did not understand the matter of the dragon soul, and looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. Yes, he absorbed too many dragon souls from somewhere, which is why he is in such a situation. The golden dragon had mixed feelings. If it was another occasion, it would definitely break the pot and ask until the end. After all, in the dragon clan, it was forbidden for members of the same species to absorb each other's dragon soul. This was a despicable act that only dragon slayers would do. However, Tang Zheng had absorbed the dragon soul this time, which was equivalent to breaking the taboo of the dragon clan. Regarding this action, the golden dragon's feelings were naturally very complicated. However, it also knew that if Tang Zheng really exploded from the dragon soul, it would definitely not be good for it. After all, Tang Zheng's soul imprint was still on it, and the two of them were in a relationship where one of them would prosper and the other would suffer. When the others heard this, their hearts became heavier and they quickly asked, "Since you know the situation, do you have a way to help him?" The golden dragon hesitated for a moment, then shook its head and said, "I won't absorb the dragon's soul in his body. This is strictly forbidden by the dragon clan. As a member of the dragon clan, I will definitely not do such a thing." "Why do you still care about this at a time like this?" Yi Dingdang impatiently urged. "Don't be stubborn, you should be flexible." The golden dragon's eyes did not waver at all. The dragon clan was very proud in their bones, and of course there was no lack of stubbornness. Looking at its attitude, everyone already understood its thoughts. It was impossible to beg it. Then can others absorb the dragon soul in his body? The Empyrean fairy asked curiously. The golden dragon glanced at her from the corner of its eyes. Although it would not look down on the Empyrean fairy, it still had a natural pride when it came to this matter. It said, "The dragon soul is not something that can be absorbed just because someone says so." Indeed, Tang Zheng could only absorb the dragon soul because he cultivated the dragon god art. It was almost impossible for others to do this. The others looked at each other with serious expressions. Now, it seemed that even if they wanted to save someone, there was no way. Xiaobai pouted and muttered, "How can it be so troublesome? I'm not afraid." Whoosh. It ignored Xin and V of the ninth heaven's attempt to stop it. In a flash, it leaped past her and landed on Tang Zheng's shoulder. This was its favorite position, so it immediately hugged the shoulder and bit down. This. Tang Zheng subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. Xiaobai, come back quickly." The others were frightened by this scene and screamed, but Xiaobai did not even turn his head and simply ignored them. There was only one thought in its mind. If no one else could do anything, then it would think of something on its own. Back then, in the prehistoric heavenly tomb, it had also absorbed a large portion of the Beast King's blood essence. Only then did it help Tang Zheng escape. Now that he was using the same trick again, he didn't know if it would be effective. Yi Dingdang and the others were extremely anxious. They wanted nothing more than to rush up and carry Xiaobai away, so as to not disturb Xiaobai. At the critical moment, the Empyrean fairy shocked the crowd, and looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze, and actually exclaimed at the same time as the golden dragon. Strange, the dragon soul was actually absorbed into Xiaobai's body. The golden dragon shouted in disbelief. Xiaobai's identity was already known. He was a descendant of the Heavens Beyond Heaven's imperial family and possessed many unimaginable abilities. However, the golden dragon still did not expect that Xiaobai could freely absorb the dragon soul even though he did not cultivate the dragon god mantra. This ability was too shocking even to the point of being shocked. Xiaobai did not have such complicated thoughts. Seeing the dragon soul continuously entering his body, he puffed up his cheeks like a glutton, continuously absorbing. Not long after, Tang Zheng's painful expression eased. The others witnessed all of this with their own eyes, and as if they had seen the dawn of hope, they all revealed looks of pleasant surprise. This is working. The few of them had mixed feelings and looked at each other. Of course it worked. The dragon soul was flowing into Little White's body at a very fast speed. The others watched this scene in fear, especially when Little White's stomach was becoming round at a speed visible to the naked eye. This caused everyone's hearts to become uneasy. They had all seen Xiaobai's transformation after absorbing the pure yang energy and other types of energy. He also became round like a little pig, and after digesting the energy he transformed back into a complete transformation. Could it be that he was using the same trick this time, and wanted to use the dragon soul to catalyze this transformation? The scarlet lunar beast looked at Xiaobai with shining eyes, and he was not worried that Xiaobai's body would explode from the dragon soul. Instead he cheered loudly, "Your Majesty is mighty." Little Yu also raised her 2 claws and clapped as if she was clapping. Xiaobai looked at everyone proudly as if he was saying, "Didn't you guys say that there was no way? Didn't I find a way?" Everyone did not know whether to laugh or cry, and no one paid attention to Xiaobai's boasting. Instead they were enjoying it. This slim chance of survival was on Xiaobai. Tang Zheng was inside the dragon seal, and originally he felt that his meridians were about to collapse. If it was not for the indestructible body with his previous strength, his meridians would have been destroyed. Chapter 1266. Tang Zheng heaved a huge sigh of relief. However, his entire body and mind were focused on the dragon seal, so he didn't realize why all of this had happened. This gave him enough courage. With a low roar, he activated the dragon god technique and digested the dragon souls without stopping. The dragon souls completely merged with his meridians. This wasn't a simple matter of settling down, but becoming a part of his body. Whoosh, whoosh. The dragon aura in Tang Zheng's body quickly rose. The dragon aura fused with his true qi and poured into his yuanying. The yuanying grew bit by bit. In addition to the flickering purple light in his eyes, a wisp of golden light also appeared. Purple electricity flowed in and out of Yuanying's body. Its power had clearly increased. While the dragon souls increased his Yuanying, they also increased his cultivation. He obviously understood the importance of all of this. He quickly focused and refined the dragon souls bit by bit. This process was not unfamiliar to him. It was a walk in the park, but it required a lot of concentration and energy. Previously he couldn't do this at all. Now that he focused all of his attention, the effect was obvious. The meridians in Yuanying also quickly expanded and became clearer. His bones became firmer and firmer. Little by little, he wasn't much different from a real person. With a spurt of energy, he continued to work hard to refine the dragon souls, especially the dragon souls in the 9th main meridian. The refining speed was much faster than the other meridians, and it became a vital force to be injected into the nascent soul. Boom! With a loud bang, it was as if a barrier in Tang Zheng's body had been broken. True qi rushed out of his yuanying like a flood, instantly spreading to his 8 meridians and complementing the dragon souls. Immediately after, more dragon souls were refined and continuously fed back to his yuanying. He was wild with joy. Last time, when he was dealing with the life totem, the Empyrean fairy coincidentally saved him. His cultivation broke through to the 3rd stage of the soul formation stage in one go. Just now the barrier was broken again. His cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the 4th stage of the soul formation stage. He never thought that his cultivation would reach the 4th stage of the soul formation stage so quickly. For a moment he was overwhelmed with emotions. However, he understood that the revolution had yet to succeed. In order to completely suppress those dragon souls, he had to persevere. Because of Xiao Bai's help, the dragon soul had been weakened a lot. Although he didn't understand what was going on, he didn't feel bad about losing these dragon souls. He wholeheartedly refined the remaining dragon souls. Just these dragon souls were enough to benefit him greatly. He had a premonition that the surprises this time were far from over. The old man's gift was not as simple as just increasing his cultivation by 1 level. His guess was very accurate. As the dragon soul continued to refine, it continuously flowed into Yuanying. Yuanying's body grew taller, and his bones crackled as if he was stretching his muscles. He was no different from a real person. The true energy in Yuanying's body continued to rise. Tiny strands of hair began to grow out from under Yuanying's skin. They were so hairy that they were no different from the hair of a real person. The smaller the difference between a nascent soul and a Taoist master, the higher the corresponding cultivation level, and the more powerful the nascent soul would be. Tang Jing understood this very well. He immediately realized that his cultivation was still advancing by leaps and bounds. Boom! There was another thunderous explosion. The true energy in Yuanying's body gushed out like a volcanic eruption, soaring into the sky. An auspicious cloud appeared above his head, and it was constantly changing. This auspicious cloud was the result of the true energy breaking through the body's shackles and floating above his head. Not only that, but this auspicious cloud also appeared above Yuanying's head. It was no different from the one in the real world. Golden Sanskrit characters floated and sank in the auspicious cloud, faintly discernible. This was a scene that Tang Zheng couldn't see, but it really fell into the eyes of the others. Although the others had already become somewhat numb, they were still a little confused when they saw the auspicious cloud and the Sanskrit characters surging within it. These Sanskrit characters seemed to be related to the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The Empyrean fairy recognized it at a glance. The golden dragon also said in a deep voice, "This is the Ksitigarbha Sutra." The Ksitigarbha Sutra was also effective. This was something that Tang Jing never expected. The golden Sanskrit characters gathered the powerful energy of the dragon soul, revealing a mysterious aura. At the same time, the changes in Tang Zheng's body had already reached the peak of perfection. The loud sound was like a signal to open the curtains, and his true energy was surging. He understood what this meant and was secretly delighted. He exclaimed to himself, "The 5th stage of the soul formation realm is no longer a problem." Indeed, his true energy broke through layer after layer of barriers and really went up a level, breaking through to the 5th stage of the soul formation realm. The dragon soul's effect was indeed not limited to the previous results. The 5th stage of the soul formation realm caused a lot of changes to his body and mind. His true energy became richer and richer, and the refining of the dragon soul also became faster. However, the true energy after the refining of the dragon soul didn't all gather in Yuanying. Instead, it flew into the sky and merged with the auspicious cloud above his head. How will the Ksitigarbha Sutra change all of this? He was looking forward to it. The Ksitigarbha Sutra was something that Dizang of Goguryeo had learned in his life. It contained mysteries that ordinary people couldn't understand, and he couldn't see through 1/10,000th of it. That was why he was so full of expectations. The Sanskrit characters were changing constantly. The energy of the dragon soul completely transformed into these Sanskrit characters. It seemed that the Sanskrit characters required a lot of energy, which was quite different from the Sanskrit characters that were transformed when he recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The Sanskrit characters became brighter and brighter, like golden light, with a sacred aura that made people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. The originally anxious crowd quieted down a lot. They were less anxious and their eyes became clear. More than half of their anxiety seemed to have been swept away in an instant. The Sanskrit characters actually have such an effect. Everyone looked at each other. They already knew how extraordinary the Sanskrit characters were without anyone's guidance. The Sanskrit characters gathered together and changed again. A golden lotus was born from the Sanskrit characters. This lotus was budding, waiting to bloom. As more and more dragon souls were refined, one of the petals opened, releasing waves of golden light. A refreshing aura was emitted from the petals, hitting people in the face. Whoosh. Everyone subconsciously took a deep breath and calmed down. All of their anxiety was completely swept away, and they entered a very mysterious state. This state was very important for cultivators. The Empyrean fairy immediately noticed this and quickly calmed down. She reminded the others, saying, "Don't worry about him, he's definitely fine." From his various reactions she could already confirm this. No matter what happened to him, this moment is very important for everyone. Focus your mind and focus on cultivating. It will be very beneficial for all of you. The Empyrean fairy advised sincerely. After saying this, she closed her eyes and sat down cross-legged beside Tang Zheng. She was like an old monk in meditation, completely immersed in her own world of cultivation. The others looked at each other. Although their reactions were not as fast as the Empyrean fairy, after her reminder, it was as if they woke up from a dream. They all sat cross-legged beside Tang Zheng. Chapter 1267. Everyone sat down cross-legged, forming a complicated flower petal shape. Even the big and small scarlet moon beasts calmed down, as if they had understood something. They were immersed in their own world. The Brahma lotus bloomed, emitting a formless aura that enveloped their heads. Their hearts were calm and their power circulated automatically. Many obstacles that they couldn't pass before were unknowingly passed without any obstruction. The shock in their hearts was imaginable, but no one wanted to miss such a good opportunity. Tang Zheng didn't know that he had brought so many benefits to the others. He was completely immersed in the joy of breaking through to the 5th stage of the divine transformation realm. In addition, the extra dragon soul merged with the Brahma lotus. A divine aura was emitted from the Brahma lotus, integrating into every meridian and every part of his body and mind. The dragon soul in his meridian actually calmed down for the first time. This wasn't as simple as settling down in his meridian. It had completely calmed down and it was no longer as restless as before. This was the thing that surprised and delighted him the most. The Brahma lotus actually has such a miraculous effect. Tang Zheng was speechless. Xiaobai had already swelled into a ball, and its eyes were listless. However, its eyes were still filled with worry when it looked at Tang Zheng. It seemed that it still wanted to absorb more dragon soul to help alleviate his symptoms. Suddenly, Xiaobai's eyes revealed a surprised expression, because it realized that it couldn't absorb the dragon soul anymore. The dragon soul seemed to be restrained by a mysterious force, not allowing it to leave his body. It had no choice but to release its mouth. It pouted its pink lips and round cheeks and stared straight at Tang Zheng. "Master, what happened to you?" Xiaobai muttered to itself. Tang Zheng had just calmed down the dragon soul, so he couldn't hear Xiaobai's voice. However, the stone in his heart was finally put down. Although the dragon soul wasn't completely refined, it was truly calmed down. He could completely digest the dragon soul bit by bit in the future, and he didn't need to worry about the dragon soul bursting his body. Suddenly, the scene in front of him changed and the steel forest disappeared. Tang Zheng was startled. He retreated from the dragon seal and saw a circle of people sitting around him. At the same time, the Brahma lotus above his head disappeared, and the formless aura disappeared. The others opened their eyes at the same time. Every pair of eyes was brimming with pleasant surprise. It seemed that they had gained a lot. When they saw Tang Zheng open his eyes, their attention was also attracted, and they looked at him with burning eyes. "Master, you're finally all right." Xiaobai, who was lying on his shoulder, was the first to speak weakly, but the joy in his words could not be concealed. Tang Zheng glanced to the side and saw the round Xiaobai. How could he not understand? It turned out that at the critical moment, it was Xiaobai who had absorbed the dragon soul and helped him overcome the first obstacle. If he didn't have Xiaobai's help, he wasn't sure if he could rely on the Ksitigarbha Sutra to completely turn the situation around. "Xiaobai, is there anything wrong with your body?" Tang Zheng stroked Xiaobai's fur and asked with concern. Xiaobai lazily pouted and said, "Master, I'm fine. I just want to sleep." Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. He was very clear about Xiaobai's nature. Once it wanted to sleep, it would be because it had absorbed too much that it couldn't digest. Then, it would be like hibernation, needing time to digest it bit by bit. He patted Xiaobai's head, and Xiaobai obediently closed its eyes, breathing in and out slowly. His gaze turned and fell on the others. In particular, they were looking at him with particularly complicated expressions. Tang Jing rubbed his nose and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Yi Dingdang couldn't wait to stand up and excitedly rushed to Tang Jing's side, saying, "You were really in danger just now. Everyone was helpless and the golden dragon didn't help. Only Xiao Bai rushed forward to help you. We were really worried to death." This string of words instantly occupied Tang Jing's mind. It spun rapidly and he immediately understood the meaning behind it. The golden dragon had a way to absorb those dragon souls, but it was a dragon. It had always despised the actions of dragon slayers, so how could it do such a thing? The others were not dragons, so it was even more impossible for them to absorb dragon souls. Only Xiao Bai was an exception. It was a member of the royal family of the sky beyond heaven, and its mysteries were far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Therefore, it was a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers, and accidentally absorbed the dragon soul. Hearing this, the golden dragon didn't panic. Instead, it looked at Tang Jing with an unfriendly gaze. Ever since it found out that Tang Jing had those dragon souls in his body, it became suspicious in its heart. Dragon souls weren't cabbages that could be found anywhere. There was definitely something strange about Tang Jing having those dragon souls in his body. There were many things that the golden dragon didn't know. The golden dragon's vigilance could be imagined, but it was also human nature. Tang Jing could hear the anger in Yi Dingdang's words towards the golden dragon for not saving it. He looked at the golden dragon without batting an eyelid. The golden dragon floated beside him, its pair of dragon eyes staring straight at Tang Jing. "I know you have a lot of questions. I'll give you the answers in a while." Tang Jing gave a simple explanation. The Dragon Clan and the Langya Pavilion were secrets of the Dragon Clan, so it was not appropriate to disclose them to the public. Even if it was the Empyrean Fairy and the others, without the Golden Dragon's permission, he would not casually reveal them. The Golden Dragon hesitated for a moment, but it understood Tang Jing's good intentions and agreed. Seeing that both sides had reached a compromise, although the others were also quite critical of the Golden Dragon's actions, they didn't continue to pursue it. On the contrary, the Empyrean Fairy was more interested in Brahma Lotus. She had personally experienced the power of Brahma Lotus and knew very well what it meant. Others could benefit a lot from it, but as the master he would definitely benefit more. "What's with the lotus on top of your head?" the Empyrean Fairy asked casually. Tang Jing subconsciously touched the top of his head and said, "You should have guessed it. This is an evolution of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, so let's call it Brahma Lotus for the time being." "Do you know what it's used for?" Tang Jing recalled the scene of Brahma Lotus comforting the dragon soul and said after some deliberation, "I really don't know much about its use, but it should be more beneficial than harmful." The Empyrean Fairy stared at him without blinking. If it was someone else who said this, she would definitely have punched them. What did he mean by more beneficial than harmful? What harm was there to it? It was clearly 1,000 or even 10,000 benefits. She took a deep breath and asked, "Then you definitely don't know what we did just now?" Tang Jing looked at her blankly and shook his head. "Then take a look and see if there are any changes in everyone?" The Empyrean Fairy didn't point it out, but suggested. Tang Jing narrowed his eyes and glanced at everyone one by one. Gradually, his eyes flashed and he couldn't hide his shock. How did everyone's cultivation level increase? It wouldn't be surprising if only one person's cultivation level increased, but the key was that everyone's cultivation level increased. Even the Scarlet Lunar Beast's strength increased greatly. This was too strange. Looking at his reaction, the Empyrean Fairy knew that he wasn't faking it. He really didn't know that Brahma Lotus had such great power. "Do you understand now?" she asked. Tang Jing didn't know what to do and asked curiously, "What's going on?" "This is the effect of Brahma Lotus. It helped all of us increase our cultivation level." The Empyrean Fairy didn't dawdle and said directly, "What?" Tang Jing was shocked and stood up immediately. He looked down at everyone and asked in disbelief, "How can Brahma Lotus have such a great effect, and it's for all of you?" He was also surprised that Brahma Lotus could calm the dragon soul, but not to this extent. After all, it was for him. But now, not only was Brahma Lotus useful to him, but it was also beneficial to others. Wasn't Brahma Lotus a little too powerful? "This is a good thing. Don't make such a big fuss," the Empyrean Fairy advised. Tang Jing could only smile bitterly. "Can you summon Brahma Lotus at any time in the future?" the Empyrean Fairy asked hesitantly. No one would complain about having a higher cultivation level. Since Brahma Lotus was so powerful and could increase one's cultivation level, The Empyrean fairy obviously wouldn't miss out on it. She didn't hold back and asked directly. I should be able to. I can give it a try. Tang Jing stuttered. He didn't know the specifics. He didn't have any experience. Since Brahma Lotus was related to the Ksitigarbha Sutra, he might as well activate the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Sure enough, a dense mist rose from the top of his head. Then a Brahma Lotus appeared. It really works. The Empyrean fairy cheered. The others had tasted the sweetness, and when they saw this scene they couldn't hide the joy on their faces. A mysterious aura once again surged out from the Brahma Lotus, enveloping everyone's heads, giving them the urge to sit down again. However, Tang Jing could summon Brahma Lotus at any time, so there was no need to be in such a hurry to cultivate. Tang Jing was still at a loss and asked, Is this okay? Many people wanted to roll their eyes. Of course it was okay. Wu could not hold it in and said mischievously, You are like a big magnet. From now on, when you train, I'm afraid we will all have to sit around you. Although Wu and Yi Dingdang were cultivators, they could still enjoy the effects of Brahma Lotus, so the two of them rejoiced. Naturally, they would not let go of this good opportunity. Brahma Lotus was used on a person's mind, bringing them into a very mysterious cultivation realm. It was universal for both martial artists and cultivators. How could it be that exaggerated? Tang Jing laughed involuntarily. However, the others did not laugh. Instead, they said seriously, It's not exaggerated at all. Furthermore, we have to keep this a secret. Otherwise you will become a hot cake. I don't know how many people will want to get close to you. After saying this, everyone realized the seriousness of the matter. The pursuit of strength was endless. If other people really knew about the effect of Brahma Lotus on cultivation, then countless people would rush to him like a flock of ducks. Not only women, even men would be willing to give themselves to him. The few of them exchanged glances with tacit understanding. They had already reached an agreement, which was that they had to keep this matter a secret and not let unrelated people know. Author's digression. I'm so tired today. I only have this one chapter. Sorry. Chapter 1268. Seeing that he had become so popular, Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was already late and they had made such a big commotion. Everyone was excited and didn't feel sleepy at all. But when he saw the golden dragon's heart filled with curiosity, Tang Jing knew that he had a belly full of questions. He could only let everyone return to their rooms to rest. He and the golden dragon were left alone in the practice room. Xiao Bai slept on Tang Jing's shoulder, his little claws grabbing onto his collar, unwilling to let go. Tang Jing also let him do this. The golden dragon rose into the air, invisibly distancing himself from Tang Jing. He looked down at him like a tiger watching its prey and said, I need an explanation. Tang Jing looked at him indifferently and nodded, I will give you an explanation. Good, then I'm all ears. I absorbed the dragon soul, many dragon souls. Tang Jing's first words made the golden dragon's eyelids jump. The long dragon whiskers at the corners of his mouth were pulled straight, like sharp swords. The golden dragon's breathing became heavier. He glared fiercely at Tang Jing and said through gritted teeth, This is a crime that only a despicable and shameless dragon slayer would commit. A crime. A single sentence had already determined the nature of this kind of behavior. Tang Jing didn't get angry. He understood the golden dragon's thoughts and said, This is indeed something that only a dragon slayer would do, but I am not a dragon slayer. You have already done it? The golden dragon reminded him. If I told you that it was a senior from the dragon clan who purposely poured the dragon soul into my body, would you believe me? Tang Jing probed. The golden dragon's round eyes were filled with disbelief. He asked back, Do you think I would believe it? How could there be other dragons in this world? The golden dragon was certain that there were no other dragons in this world. There was a certain connection between dragons, so he was very certain. There isn't any in this world, but there is in the dragon seal. These words caused the golden dragon's heartstrings to tremble. He found it even more unbelievable and shouted, Impossible! Although there were countless dragons entering and exiting the dragon seal and arriving at Langya, the dragons were sometimes isolated from each other and it was impossible for them to meet. Tang Jing said that he had met other dragons in Langya. This was not a fantasy, then what was? The golden dragon looked at Tang Jing suspiciously, thinking that he must be deceiving it. Dragons hated being lied to the most. Tang Jing hesitated. The golden dragon was one of his most powerful allies. It was impossible to have a grudge against it. He had to win its trust. Although the matter of the inverted Langya was mysterious, it was still related to the dragon clan after all. Even an outsider like him knew about it. There was no need to keep hiding it from the golden dragon. Seeing him hesitate and not speak, the golden dragon's claws slowly clenched into fists and slowly wandered over his head. Hostility was gathering bit by bit. Tang Jing suddenly raised his head and met the golden dragon's eyes. He said, "What I'm going to tell you this time is one of the dragon clan's biggest secrets. You have to promise that you won't reveal it to anyone else. Then I'll tell you." One of the dragon clan's biggest secrets? The golden dragon's expression was a bit funny. He was a dragon. How could there be a secret of the dragon clan that he didn't know about and an outsider knew about it? Seeing that Tang Jing didn't seem to be joking, the golden dragon pondered for a moment and said heavily, "Okay, I promise you. I'd like to see what secrets of the dragon clan you can tell me." "Have you been to the dragon seal outside of Langia?" Tang Jing asked straightforwardly. The golden dragon was stunned by the question and immediately reacted. He asked in disbelief, "Have you been there?" Tang Jing nodded truthfully, "I have indeed been there and I found a place." The golden dragon's eyes were about to burst. He pointed his claws at Tang Jing and said, "You're too daring. Don't you know that it's a place that the dragon clan strictly forbids?" Tang Jing shrugged his shoulders and said, "It's not like I'm a dragon." The golden dragon sucked in a breath of anger, but there was nothing he could do. At the same time he was also full of curiosity about the area outside of Langia. He couldn't wait to ask, "What place did you find?" Tang Jing took a few steps forward, as if he wanted to close the distance between them. Four eyes stared straight at each other. He opened his mouth wide and said with a cadence, "The other Langia is just an inverted one." The golden dragon trembled all over and shouted, "What? The other Langia is impossible, impossible." In the dragon clan's belief, there was only one Langia. How could there be a second Langia? Tang Jing ignored his shock and said to himself, "There's one more thing you definitely can't think of. Do you know what's stored in this Langia?" The golden dragon slowly shook his head. He was indeed shocked speechless by this series of news. The Steel Forest, which is the dragon clan's graveyard, has countless dragon souls. Tang Jing announced the answer in a deep voice. The golden dragon was already stunned. The words dragon soul echoed in his mind. He suddenly realized that no wonder Tang Jing absorbed so many dragon souls. It turned out that he absorbed them from this upside-down Langia. In fact, for many years, the golden dragon had always thought that the dragon clan's graveyard had long been visited by the dragon slayers and plundered it clean. He didn't expect that there would still be a remnant of the graveyard. He rejoiced, guessing that the dragon clan's ancestors must have prepared for a rainy day and thought of this method. The complicated look in his eyes was difficult to get rid of. He asked, "In other words, you absorbed the dragon souls in the graveyard? Isn't this what the dragon slayers did in the past? Back then you avoided the dragon slayers, but now you didn't escape from your evil hands." Tang Jing shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Didn't I tell you? Someone deliberately injected the dragon soul into my body." Tang Jing decided that he couldn't say it step by step. He had to say it all in one breath. Otherwise, the golden dragon's anger would accumulate to the peak. Before he could finish, he couldn't help but attack. Hearing Tang Jing's tireless words, the golden dragon's worldview was completely subverted. Especially when he heard the appearance of the old man on the dragon boat, he was even more excited. There was no doubt that this was the best of the dragon clan's ancestors. He chose Tang Jing, but he misunderstood Tang Jing. Suddenly, a sense of shame arose spontaneously. Looking at Tang Jing again, his gaze became more and more complicated. The golden dragon's anger subsided, but his mood didn't calm down at all. Instead, it was like a stormy sea rolling up huge waves. That's how it is. When Tang Jing finished speaking, the golden dragon was still immersed in it, completely unable to extricate himself. Those dragon souls were a gift from the old man. The golden dragon smacked his lips and said with mixed feelings. Tang Jing nodded and said, "I think so. He wants to improve your cultivation so that you have the ability to stop the dragon slayers?" The old man said that the dragon slayers have already come to this world. We are in imminent danger. Perhaps he was worried that I wouldn't be able to deal with it, so he came up with this plan. The golden dragon took a deep breath and digested all of its anger. Especially when it heard the old man say that Tang Jing was a surprise weapon to deal with the dragon slayers. It couldn't help but recall the bits and pieces of contact it had with Tang Jing. His life experience could be summed up with the word strange. Whether it was his identity as a Skywalker, or his complicated relationship with Chiyu, the Dragon Clan, or the Fu Clan, there were very few people who had such a complicated relationship with him. Since the old man had chosen him, the golden dragon naturally didn't dare to have any complaints. Although the dragon clan was proud, they didn't dare to have the slightest disrespect to their ancestors. That was a crime of treason. The method to sense the dragon slayers can only be used by the dragon clan. The dragon clan is also the target of the dragon slayers. I will teach you this divine ability now. In the future, when you meet the dragon slayers, even if you can't defeat them, you can still stay away from them. Tang Zheng was open and above board. He didn't have the intention to take the dragon clan's divine ability for himself. The golden dragon was overjoyed. If he had this method, then wouldn't he have the ability to protect himself? At least he wouldn't be as passive as the dragon clan in the past. He wouldn't be chased by the dragon slayers until they realized it was too late. This is what the ancestor taught you, can you teach it to me? The golden dragon's heart was itching, but he still pretended to ask. Tang Zheng smiled. This is the dragon clan's divine ability. You are also a member of the dragon clan. Even an outsider like me has the qualifications to learn it, so how can you not have the qualifications? I'm afraid that the old man's original intention was to borrow your hands to pass down this divine ability. The golden dragon let out a sigh of relief. He was overjoyed and said excitedly, then I'll have to trouble you. Tang Zheng shook his head and pointed with his finger. A golden light shot out from his fingertip and with a so sound, it entered the golden dragon's forehead. The golden dragon didn't even have time to react before he discovered that there was an additional golden text in his mind. He quickly calmed his mind and quietly felt the profoundness within. Tang Zheng's thoughts moved. He had also learned this divine ability, but he didn't have time to test it out. Since the old man said that the dragon slayers had already come to this world, then he should investigate his whereabouts. He calmed his mind and found that he had immediately entered a state of selflessness. This was many times faster than when he entered this state before. He knew that this was the effect of Fan Lian. He muttered something under his breath and his fingers flipped, forming a few hand seals. Suddenly, a mysterious feeling spread out from his heart. It was as if he had grown a clairvoyant's eyes. In an instant, a blurry figure appeared in front of his eyes. This figure was too blurry. He couldn't see it clearly, but he could feel that it was a human and a strong one at that. This feeling was like using a telescope to observe others. It was very strange. He was immersed in it and constantly urged his cultivation, as if he wanted to see more clearly. Is he the dragon slayers? Tang Zheng's mind was filled with doubt. He felt that this person was still very far away from him. This feeling was very mysterious. There was no concrete evidence, it was all based on his own heart. It must be him. Tang Zheng gradually became certain. It really was as the old man said. The dragon slayers had already come to this world and was very close to him. If it wasn't for the fact that he received the guidance of the old man, then he would have been caught unprepared when the dragon slayers chased after him. Thousands of miles away in the middle of the sea, a person walked on the waves. Behind him was the rolling sea. White waves rose and fell one after another. One after another, the fish flipped over, their bellies turning white, dying an unnatural death in the waves, all of them floating up. Chapter 1269. The dragon slayer was very confused by this feeling of being watched. This was something that had never happened before. It was so mysterious that he couldn't tell if he was imagining things or if it was real. However, he quickly confirmed that this feeling was real. He was indeed being spied on. He raised his eyebrows and his anger was completely exposed. The seawater under his feet began to boil fiercely. With him as the center, all the fish within a few meters all flipped up from the water. "Who is it?" he roared, and his voice was quickly transmitted. "Ah!" Tang Zheng's brain felt like it was pricked by a needle. The image in front of him disappeared. He broke out in cold sweat and was still in shock. Although he didn't hear the words, "Who is it?" he had an ominous premonition as if he had been discovered. Could it be that this supernatural power has a drawback? Not only can it sense the dragon slayer, but it can also be captured by him? He frowned. The tingling sensation had completely disappeared, and there were no sequelae. However, the words "acting rashly and alerting the enemy" appeared in his mind. Although this rash casting of the spell had yielded results and confirmed the arrival of the dragon slayer, it had definitely alerted the dragon slayer. Everything has its own destiny. Since it has already happened, there's no need to regret it. Tang Zheng took a deep breath and put away his complicated thoughts. I just hope the dragon slayer won't find me because of this. The old man had once said that the dragon slayer's perception of him was very subtle and wouldn't easily sense him. That was why he was a surprise troop. The Dragon Slayer shouldn't be able to sense his location. Thinking of this, he was slightly relieved. His guess was correct. In the sea, the Dragon Slayer stopped for a long time and circulated his power. He also wanted to find out what was going on or who was spying on him. However, in the end he had no choice but to give up. There was indeed no trace to be found. His eyes were as cold as a 10,000-year-old glacier, but he still couldn't see through the mystery. Could it be that there's a peerless master in this world who discovered my tracks? He suddenly thought. The Dragon Slayer traveled through many worlds. Of course, he would encounter many local masters. However, as he absorbed more and more dragon souls, his strength became stronger and stronger. He rarely encountered opponents. His confidence was inflated, but he didn't expect to encounter such a situation, causing him to become cautious. He looked around and found that this world was indeed very different from the world he had been to before. At least he saw many huge ships that were far away, which was something that other worlds did not have. He didn't know that it was a product of technology, so he didn't care. His goal was the Dragon Clan. Everything else was secondary. This was also the principle that he had always believed in. It was best to avoid unnecessary trouble and kill the Dragon Clan in one strike and obtain the Dragon Soul. After standing still for a long time, his mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. He temporarily put aside the doubts in his heart and set his sights on the Dragon Clan. Dragon Clan, I can already sense your presence. Wait for me, I'm coming. The coastline was in the distance. His goal was to cross the coastline and head north. The Golden Dragon recovered. It had already learned the ability to sense the Dragon Slayer. It impatiently used it, but it only had a very vague feeling. It did not see the figure of the Dragon Slayer. But one thing was certain, the Dragon Slayer had definitely come to this world. Danger was approaching. When Tang Zheng heard about the Golden Dragon's feelings, he muttered in his heart. Why could he see the vague figure of the Dragon Slayer, but the Golden Dragon couldn't? The Golden Dragon's strength was not lower than his at all. Of course, it was better not to say such words. Otherwise, the Golden Dragon would definitely be very depressed. It was a dragon, but it couldn't compare to an outsider. Since the ancestor said that you are a secret weapon, then it is to protect your existence. Now that I am with you, you will be implicated by me. For your safety and the hope of the Dragon Clan, I must leave you. The Golden Dragon's words shocked Tang Zheng. He didn't think of this at all. It seemed that he was already used to the Golden Dragon's existence. The Golden Dragon looked at him with a burning gaze and said, In the past, you used a soul imprint to control me. I must have been very dissatisfied. But now that you have been chosen for the sake of the Dragon Clan's survival, those dissatisfaction have disappeared. I sincerely submit to you as long as you can let the Dragon Clan completely get rid of the shadow of the Dragon Slayer. The Golden Dragon's words were sincere, causing Tang Zheng to be moved. Just as the Golden Dragon said, its existence would indeed expose Tang Zheng. Leaving was the best protection. It was not afraid of death, or it could be said that it was willing to sacrifice itself to protect Tang Zheng. This made him have mixed feelings. Actually, you don't have to do this. This time there is only one Dragon Slayer. With so many of us, we might not be his opponent. Killing the Dragon Slayer will be just right to take revenge for the Dragon Clan. Tang Zheng earnestly advised. The Golden Dragon stubbornly shook its head. It's not as simple as you think. The Dragon Slayer is not a group that fights alone. Although only one Dragon Slayer has arrived this time, there might be more reinforcements later. So, killing one Dragon Slayer is far from enough. After pausing for a moment, the Golden Dragon continued, Moreover, if we are too strong and arouse the Dragon Slayer's vigilance, he will spread the news and attract more Dragon Slayer. At that time we will be even less of a match. Tang Zheng was silent. He had to admit that the Golden Dragon was very thoughtful. Are you really going to leave? Tang Zheng asked with some reluctance. The Golden Dragon nodded. Yes, I've made up my mind. In fact, if Tang Zheng did not want it to leave, it would have nowhere to go with the soul brand. However, looking at the Golden Dragon's eyes, Tang Zheng really could not bear to use this method to stop it. Moreover, it was for his own good, or rather for everyone else's good. It was using itself to attract the Dragon Slayer's firepower. I have a soul brand connection with you, so once I am attacked by the Dragon Slayer and my life is on the line, you will also sense it. At that time you will definitely know who the Dragon Slayer is. Keep a close eye on him and you can slowly plan. The Golden Dragon was like a martyr, full of heroism as it spoke. Tang Zheng looked at the Golden Dragon with a complicated expression. He did not expect it to make such a choice in the end, nor did he expect it to leave under such circumstances. We are all straightforward people, so don't dawdle. I will leave first. Thank you for telling me about the Dragon Clan's secret. The golden dragon was carefree and full of heroism. It stared deeply at Tang Zheng and said earnestly, "The Dragon Clan's hope is in your hands. You must not let down the ancestors' expectations. You must ruthlessly deal with those bastards, the Dragon Slayer. It's best if they completely disappear from this world." At the end of its words, the golden dragon gritted its teeth. Anger and hatred seemed to be leaking from the gaps between its teeth. Since it had already said so much, what else could Tang Zheng say? He could only nod heavily and promise, "Don't worry, the Dragon Slayer is our common enemy. I will definitely not let them have an easy time. I'm leaving." The golden dragon soared into the sky, turned into a golden light, and disappeared from the training room. Chapter 1270. The next morning, everyone woke up early. They had a sleepless night as they were digesting what they had gained. When they heard that the golden dragon had left, they were all shocked. Although Tang Zheng did not explain the reason, everyone knew that there must be a reason behind it. The Empyrean fairy did not stay at home. Instead, she rushed to the Yen family to look for Yen Qingyi, or to be more precise, to look for the Emperor of Heaven. However, when she arrived at the Yen family, she was told that Yen Qingyi had left without a trace. The Empyrean fairy was shocked and angry. Now, it was even harder for her to find her father. She did not know how he was doing. Looking at the Empyrean fairy who came back listlessly, Tang Zheng comforted her after he heard the whole story. He could not figure out Yen Qingyi's behavior. Yen Qingyi was no longer the same as before. He could not treat her the same way he did in the past. Since the Dragon Slayer had arrived and Xianyin had said that there was a problem with the space separation between the two worlds, Tang Zheng ordered them to look for the demon race. He had to discuss this with the demon race to see if there was a good way. In addition, after Ji Wuxiang retreated from the Gate of Heaven, he disappeared without a trace. This big trouble must be found. Therefore he ordered Li Xiaotian to use all means to find out the whereabouts of Ji Wuxiang and the demon race. In the next few days he focused on cultivating at home. The others sat around him reluctantly and received the enhancement effect of the Empyrean fairy. Both of them benefited a lot. At the same time he learned from the Red Moon Beast about absorbing the moonlight essence. He wanted to absorb the moonlight essence as well as the star energy. Perhaps he would gain something unexpected. Since Xianyin had died and he had taken his revenge, the Red Moon Beast no longer had his guard against Tang Zheng. He did not hide anything and taught Tang Zheng everything. As expected, Tang Zheng benefited a lot from some of the key points. It was helpful for him to absorb the star energy. Night fell and the sky was dotted with stars. Because of the Tree of Life, the air between heaven and earth had completely changed, and the atmospheric pollution was basically gone. Therefore, even in the capital, the smog of the past had completely disappeared, and one could enjoy the beauty of the starry sky to their heart's content. Tang Zheng gazed at the starry sky with a burning gaze. In his eyes, this starry sky was even more beautiful than the eyes of others because it would also bestow upon him boundless power. The Red Moon Beast stood at the side and looked at the starry sky with curiosity. Then it looked at Tang Zheng. Although it had the unique physique of the Red Moon Beast, it could only absorb the essence of the moonlight. It was far from being able to absorb the power of the stars. However, Tang Zheng could do this, which made it very puzzled and full of curiosity. Tang Zheng took a deep breath and circulated his power. The ancient Tongtian scroll was the first to circulate, followed by the heavenly writing. The ancient clear heaven scroll was the general outline of the heavenly tomes. Once the general outline was formed, the heavenly tomes started to circulate rapidly. Boom! There seemed to be a roar in his mind. Then, in the sky there seemed to be a thunderclap in response. The stars in the sky suddenly became brighter and seemed to be getting closer to him, becoming bigger and brighter. Tang Zheng was immersed in his own world and was completely unaware of all this. He was very clear that when he was in the celestial chess, he relied on the ancient Tongtian scroll to communicate with the power of the stars. Later on, he found out that the ancient Tongtian scroll and the heavenly writing were of the same origin. They were the general principles of the heavenly writing. In other words, the heavenly writing could help him to communicate with and absorb the power of the stars. With the special trait of the Red Moon Beast, he was even more powerful. The Red Moon Beast's eyes were wide open as it looked at the night sky in disbelief. It could clearly feel the power of the stars descending from the stars, but it could not communicate with them. However, the energy contained in the stars was so strong that it was terrified. The essence of the sun and moon could not be compared to it at all. The essence of the sun and moon is just a drop in the ocean. This is the truly powerful energy. The red moon beast smacked its lips and sighed with mixed feelings. The stars were shining brightly, and specks of red rose from the surface of the moonlight. The blood moon. However, when the red moon beast looked at the blood moon, it felt quite different from the blood moon that appeared when it was cultivating. At least, the moonlight essence descending from the blood moon was richer. It quickly called out to little Yu who was beside it and urged, "Quick, use your power to absorb the moonlight essence." After that, it quickly used its power to absorb the moonlight essence as well. Although the red moon beast could absorb the moonlight essence on its own, it was not as much as the amount of moonlight essence that Tang Zheng had communicated with. This time it was more than enough for them to absorb the moonlight essence several times. Little Yu called out obediently and quickly used her power to absorb the moonlight essence with her father. In an instant, a strange scene appeared in the small courtyard. A man and two beasts raised their heads and bathed in the vast power. Ordinary people could not see this scene at all. All kinds of energy were invisible, but people who were strong enough could feel the energy. The Empyrean fairy walked out of the house and watched this scene quietly. A whirlpool seemed to have appeared in the sky. The power of the stars descended from the whirlpool and accurately entered Tang Zheng's head. He closed his eyes and did not move like a statue. At the same time, the blood moon in the sky attracted the attention of many people. In the night, at the peak, a person stood quietly on a tall building, overlooking the capital city. This person had the appearance of a child, but his eyes were bright and full of spirit, shining with a cold light. 100 Faces Star Sovereign. He appeared again. During this period, 100 Faces Star Sovereign did not have an easy time. The rise of many forces, especially the rebellion of the demons, did not allow him to benefit from the return of the demons. Instead, he was in a difficult situation and had to hide. He had enough of this kind of life, but he could do nothing about it. He was like a rat crossing the street. However, he did not give up. He must take back what he had lost. The glory from 10,000 years ago was gone. He wanted to regain the glory that belonged to him. One should know that when he broke Mount Buzhou, he became famous. Regardless of whether it was good or bad, his name was completely known. However, now that tens of thousands of years had passed, he was fiercely suppressed by some of his descendants, and could not make a comeback. Especially Tang Zheng, who had to watch him rise step by step. This feeling was too uncomfortable. The glory should have belonged to him. Swoosh. A figure flew up from under the tall building and walked up along the vertical wall as if walking on flat ground. Master. The person knelt down on one knee. One was tall while the other was short. After kneeling, the person was about the same height as the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. However, the two people's auras were worlds apart. 100 Faces Star Sovereign glanced at her indifferently and asked, "Junko, have you found him?" Junko nodded heavily, a cold light flickering in her dark eyes as she said, "Found it." 100 Faces Star Sovereign's eyes lit up. "Good. Master, he has already lost his power. What's the point of looking for him?" Junko asked puzzledly. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign sneered and gave an irrelevant answer. "Actually, I have always overlooked an extremely important matter." Junko looked at him suspiciously. Ever since she betrayed the Imperial Tutor's residence, she had followed 100 Faces Star Sovereign. The journey was extremely difficult, and she had even encountered many irreversible failures. However, Junko's reverence for 100 Faces Star Sovereign grew stronger and stronger. Now she had wholeheartedly submitted to him. Power. I've always neglected the importance of power. Whether it was tens of thousands of years ago or later, I thought that power was worthless. Only now do I realize how important it is. Why did Qi Yu and the Yellow Emperor go through so much trouble just to sit on the throne? This is the reason for power. 100 Faces Star Sovereign clenched his teeth and fists tightly. In the past he had always been free and undisciplined. He was also very conceited about his own strength and was used to fighting alone. He had no intention of vying for the throne, or perhaps he thought that the world was just a playground where he could play happily. Even after he escaped from Mount Buzhou, he was content to occupy a small corner of the world. He didn't use the demon army to attack the human world and seize the fruits of victory. In short, he was a person without much ambition and revenge. Even if he allowed the demon race to return, it was only a game he played on a whim. But after the demon race's return, Qi Yu's powerful appearance ruined his plans. His game became ridiculous and laughable. It was purely a wedding dress for someone else. Only then did he come to his senses and re-examine his previous actions over and over again. He suddenly realized that he was really stupid and pitiful. He missed too many good opportunities. He wanted revenge, he wanted to take back everything. Thus, he deliberately hid himself and waited for the right time. Junko didn't understand, but there was one thing she understood more than Hundred Faces Star Sovereign, and that was the role of power. After all, she was a person of the secular world. How could she not understand the wonderful taste of power? Master's words are reasonable. Then is he a puppet for us to obtain power? Junko asked curiously. Puppet? Ah, you really think too highly of him. I used to like dolls and puppets, but that's the Hundred Faces Star Sovereign of the past. The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign of the present doesn't need puppets. The 100 Transformations Star Lord said resolutely. There was a process of growth. If Tang Jing saw this scene, he would have to admit that Hundred Faces Star Sovereign had indeed undergone earth-shaking changes. Or, to be more precise, he had grown. Junko didn't understand Hundred Faces Star Sovereign's words, but she tactfully didn't ask any more questions. Then shall we go now? Hundred Faces Star Sovereign didn't move. Instead, he looked into the distance, where the mighty power of the stars was descending from the sky. Hundred Faces Star Sovereign couldn't communicate with the power of the stars, but he knew that this was a very powerful force. He had already investigated all kinds of information and found out that this was the work of Tang Jing. The enemy was so powerful that he didn't want to attack directly and ruin Tang Jing's plan to absorb the power of the stars. Now, he didn't have the ability to do so. Chapter 1271. Hundred Faces jumped down from the tall building, followed by Junko. Her toes occasionally tapped on the wall and she followed him like a shadow. The two disappeared into the darkness. Not long after, they arrived at a secret place. It was inconspicuous and ordinary people would not take a second look at it. Hundred Change's eyes were filled with passion as he stared at the courtyard. This was where he gained power. The two were like messengers of the darkness, silently and lightly jumping into the courtyard wall. However, their bodies froze in midair as an invisible force blocked their path. The Hundred Change Star Sovereign frowned slightly and muttered to himself, "Interesting. Their defenses are so strong." He pointed his finger forward, and water droplets rose from the pool of water in the corner of the courtyard and gathered at his fingertip. He flicked the water droplets gently, and the water droplets broke through the air and hit the invisible force. Bang! The invisible force was instantly shattered. An alarm sounded in the courtyard, but it was not an alarm that ordinary people could hear. It could only be heard with special equipment. This was to avoid causing too much of a commotion and let others know. The two landed lightly on the ground, and before they could stand firm, several strong gusts of wind swept from the side. Hundred Change did not move, but Junko had already made her move. With a flash of cold light, the katana in her hand was slashed out. In the darkness, sparks flew everywhere, and the sound of ding-dang clashing could be heard. It was extremely dangerous. Hundred Change did not seem to see any of this at all. He used his power to quietly investigate this extraordinary courtyard. Suddenly, his eyes turned cold as he stared at a corner of the courtyard. His lips curled into a sneer. "So you were hiding here. You really are a rat. You managed to avoid so many people's eyes, but you still fell into my hands. Don't play with them. They're just a bunch of scrap metal. What's there to play with?" Hundred Change urged. "Yes, master," Junko replied, and the katana in her hand became faster, almost invisible to the naked eye. Clang, clang, clang. After a few banging sounds, everything became quiet. With the moonlight in the sky, one could vaguely see a few people on the ground, but there was no blood. Instead, sparks flickered, revealing the metallic luster under their skin. Without a doubt, this was a mechanical warrior. The mechanical warriors were not weak in the first place, and there were several of them besieging Junko, yet she was able to kill them one by one with ease. From this, it could be seen that she had benefited a lot from following the Hundred Faces Star Lord, and her strength had far surpassed before. 100 Transformations Star Lord walked past them, not even sparing a glance at the mechanical warrior on the ground, heading straight for the target room. Whoosh! Whoosh! Rays of light shot out from the darkness. The 100 Change Star Sovereign spread his fingers and waved them in the air. The light was completely frozen in midair. Not worth mentioning. The 100 Change Star Sovereign curled his lips and said disdainfully. The light dispersed, and the 100 Transformations Star Sovereign advanced once again. That room was deathly silent, giving off an extremely stifling feeling. "Stop your pointless resistance," the 100 Transformations Star Sovereign said indifferently. 100 Transformations Star Lord, what are you doing here? A voice came from the room, full of vigilance. If Tang Jing were here, he would definitely be very surprised. This was because this voice belonged to the chief that he had been looking for. Ever since the chief escaped last time, there had been no news of him. Even in the government he did not appear again. Instead, he was controlled from afar and gradually hid behind the scenes. This left everyone at a loss as to what to do. Although the government was very dissatisfied with him, he had a powerful force in his hands, and that was the mechanical warriors. He had taken over everything that the dragon group had built in the past, and no one else could touch it. Of course, there were many people who coveted the power in his hands and wanted to take it for themselves. However, if he did not appear, no one could do anything about it. The chief was already a bird that was startled by the mere twang of a bow, and he was very clear about his situation. Every force wanted to find him, and that was why he kept quiet. Otherwise, with his flamboyant personality, he would not be willing to hide behind the scenes. He had interacted with the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign before, and he knew how powerful she was. At this time, the other party had spent so much effort to find him, and it was not as simple as just catching up. The chief was a cautious person, so he did not want to meet the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign face to face. Hearing the chief's voice, the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign calmed down and said calmly, "I heard that you haven't been doing well recently. As an old acquaintance, of course I should come and show my concern. Don't cry crocodile tears. I don't need it. Please go back." The chief rejected her directly. Keeping people at a distance is not the way to treat a guest. Guest or foe who can tell clearly? The chief said directly. "Hey, you think that I'm an enemy and not a friend? Don't forget we have a common enemy, Tang Zheng." Hearing the two words Tang Zheng, the chief gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. After a moment of silence, he said angrily, "Don't tell me you want to deal with Tang Zheng? You're all alone now, what ability do you have to go against him? You can only blame yourself for being too arrogant back then and not taking that brat seriously at all. That's why he grew up step by step. Now even you can't do anything to him." Of course, these words were directed at the chief himself. Back then it was so easy for him to deal with Tang Zheng, but he did not expect that Tang Zheng would have such great potential. If he had known, he would not have let Tang Zheng live in this world no matter what. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign's eyes flashed with a cold light. How could his hatred for Tang Zheng be any less than the chief's? That was why he felt the same way. He took a deep breath and did not let his anger drown him. He went with the flow and said, "Yes, I regret it very much. But there's no medicine for regret in this world. In order to make up for this mistake, I came to find you. I won't see you." The chief was not at all amicable and coldly rejected him. "I'm already here. If I don't see you, I won't leave." The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign understood that this house looked small and did not have anything special about it. There must be a great danger hidden inside. Of course he could barge in, but he did not want to make too much of a commotion to avoid attracting attention. Both sides were in a deadlock. No one was willing to give in. You don't want others to discover your whereabouts. If this deadlock continues, you'll definitely be exposed when the sun rises. You don't want that to happen, do you? The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign understood the chief's thoughts very well, so he pointed out his weakness. This sentence caused the chief to be in a dilemma. In order to keep this a secret, he had to send the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign away. However, the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was shamelessly standing in the yard. He could not really attack him too fiercely. If he did, this place would be exposed. He gritted his teeth, pondered for a long time and said ambiguously, "If you have something to say, just say it. If I can do it, I definitely won't refuse. If I can't do it, then forgive me for being powerless." Ha ha ha. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign laughed. "If I don't see you, I won't leave. You don't have to use such a childish trick to deceive me. I've lived for tens of thousands of years. How can I be fooled by such a small trick?" The chief fell into a deadlock again. The air was as silent as death. The oppressive air seemed to have frozen. Junko looked at the room with burning eyes. She could not wait to rush over and grab that person. However, she knew that this short distance would be the end of the world. At least it was so for her. "Okay, I'll see you. I'd like to see what you have to say." The chief finally compromised. "I said that I would help you defeat Tang Zheng. So, of course what I'm saying is the way to achieve this." The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was calm and collected. The door opened. A ray of light shot out from the door, elongating the shadows of the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign and Junko. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign narrowed his eyes. He could not see the situation in the room clearly. His divine sense could only sense one person's breathing. This person was, of course, the chief. There was no other breathing sound, but it did not mean that there was no one else in the room. The mechanical warriors were not living beings. They did not need to breathe, so they could not sense breathing. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign did not overlook this point. Hence he did not let his guard down. Although Junko had easily dealt with a few mechanical warriors, the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign did not underestimate them at all. On the contrary, he became more and more interested in technology. He also became more and more aware of the power of technology. The mechanical warriors were a powerful team. They were definitely not to be underestimated. Let's go. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign whispered to Junko. Be careful. Junko nodded heavily. Of course, she understood the danger of this step. In the past, the Imperial Tutor's residence was filled with danger. This time, it was definitely more dangerous than the Imperial Tutor's residence. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign's footsteps were light as if he was really a child. He walked to the door as if his feet did not touch the ground. He did not even raise his head to look around. He stepped over the threshold and walked into the bright room. Junko followed behind him like a shadow. When the two of them stepped over the threshold, the door closed with a bang. It isolated the darkness of the outside world. It also seemed to have cut off the connection with the outside world. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign did not even blink. Junko, on the other hand, was so frightened that her whole body trembled. She suddenly opened her eyes wide and looked around vigilantly. There were indeed many things worth looking around. This was because, in this small room, there were many black muzzles aimed at the two of them. These muzzles seemed ordinary, but they believed that as long as they spat out something, it would definitely be fatal. It was probably the same for the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign. A person sat in the middle of the room. He was arrogant and had a vigilant expression. However, he could not hide the fatigue on his face. This person was naturally the chief. These past few days he had been in a terrible fix. He had been so anxious that even his white hair had grown out. However, his aura did not weaken at all. Instead, it increased by a lot and became even more unfathomable. The chief narrowed his eyes slightly and sized up the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign. He did not dare to underestimate the energy contained in that short and small body. He did not intend to stand up and welcome him. He looked at the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign warily and asked, "You said you would help me? What can you do?" Chapter 1272. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign looked at him and said calmly, "Replace him." The bureau chief frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" "Replace him." 100 Faces repeated. Although the bureau chief didn't understand what he meant, he had an ominous feeling in his heart. He subconsciously took a step back and asked, "What do you mean?" The 100 Change Star Sovereign raised his foot and walked toward the other party. There was an unfathomable smile on his face. The bureau chief's expression changed and he shouted, "Stop right there." 100 Faces Star didn't stop. Instead, he rushed over like a whirlwind. The bureau chief reacted quickly and shouted, "Stop them and kill them." Pew pew. Laser beams shot out from the gun muzzles toward the two of them. The two of them were ready and wouldn't be hit so easily. With a flash of light, a treasure blocked the laser beams. Taking advantage of this gap, 100 Faces Star quickly closed the distance between him and the bureau chief. He stretched out his hand and was about to grab the bureau chief. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, a few bodies blocked his way. The mechanical warriors also reacted and quickly launched a fierce counterattack. Since the bureau chief had given the order to kill, the mechanical warriors naturally didn't have any scruples. Every move was a clean killing move. It was a pity that while it might be effective against other people, it wasn't enough to deal with 100 Faces Star. Especially when the two sides were so close, 100 Faces Star was already in an invincible position. His reaction speed was much faster than the mechanical warriors. With a tap of his finger, a few strong gusts of wind shot into the mechanical warriors' chests, causing them to fall to the ground. Junko's situation was much worse. In just one round she was injured. The enemy was really stronger than the one outside. Also, there were more enemies. She didn't have 3 heads and 6 arms and naturally couldn't win. She didn't retreat and followed behind 100 Faces Star. She waved the guns in her hands so tightly that even water couldn't get in. Sparks flew everywhere as she blocked the killing moves from all directions with difficulty. 100 Faces Star finally moved forward and wiped out the mechanical warriors in front of the bureau chief. The other mechanical warriors wanted to help, but it was too late. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign was very close to her. Her murderous aura made the bureau chief feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Her face turned pale as she asked, "Why do you want to kill me?" He already understood the 100 Transformation Star-Lord's intentions, but he was puzzled. What benefits would the 100 Transformation Star-Lord gain by killing him? In his opinion, the most effective way to deal with Tang Jing was for both sides to work together. However, how could he possibly guess the 100 Transformation Star-Lord's plan and thoughts? The 100 Change Star Sovereign said indifferently, "I've already told you. Replace him. Only by replacing you can I help you get rid of Tang Jing, this big problem." Replace him? The bureau chief was enlightened, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He finally understood 100 Faces Star-Lord's intentions. "Do you think it's possible to replace me?" The bureau chief asked fiercely. "I'm one of a kind. Do you think it's so easy to replace me?" The 100 Change Star Sovereign smiled and shook his head, saying, "He doesn't really understand my strength." The bureau chief's heart jumped. The 100 Faces Star-Lord didn't say anything else because he had already arrived in front of the bureau chief. His large hand reached for the bureau chief's head. F***ck dream on. The bureau chief was flustered and exasperated as he roared furiously. A light flashed in his hand, and a brilliant sword flew towards the 100 Faces Star-Lord's body. Tsk tisk. The 100 Faces Star-Lord was unmoved. Instead he clicked his tongue and praised, "Impressive, impressive. You're actually a cultivator, and your cultivation isn't low either. I wonder who made you undergo such a huge transformation. It's a pity that your strength is too weak now. You won't be able to do anything. You'll only be courting death." The 100 Faces Star-Lord shook his head and sighed. He didn't care about the other party at all. With a grab of his large hand, 2 fingers actually caught the incoming sword. 2 fingers against a sword. The difference in strength was huge, but the result was shocking. The sword stopped firmly in the middle of the fingers. No matter how the bureau chief urged his power to pull it back, it was to no avail. "You've given me a lot of surprises. With your strength, you're already considered lucky to be able to reach this stage. Leave the rest to me," the 100 Faces Star-Lord said coldly. The bureau chief's heart beat violently, almost jumping out of his throat. He understood that it was the most crucial moment. Using all his strength, he shouted, "Kill them all." Boom, boom, boom. The house started to shake. The ground started to move as if something was about to break out of the ground. "It's too late." The 100 Faces Star-Lord shook his head and said, "Go to hell." Pah. Just as he finished speaking, the sword was broken by 2 fingers. The fingers pushed forward, and half of the sword pierced the bureau chief's chest. The bureau chief's voice stopped abruptly. His eyeballs almost popped out. The 100 Faces Star-Lord was in a daze. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth as he said, "You really dare to kill me? Of course, if not, how can I replace you?" The 100 Faces Star-Lord shrugged and said casually, "But you won't be able to walk out of this door. All of you will die with me." The bureau chief's face became ferocious and crazy. The hatred in his eyes could almost pierce through a person. "Is that so? These mechanical warriors all listen to your orders. Then will they harm me?" The corners of 100 Changes Star-Lord's lips curled into an unfathomable smile as his body rapidly transformed. "What are you doing?" the bureau chief asked with difficulty. "You know." Just as he finished speaking, the 100 Faces Star-Lord had changed greatly. He had completely turned into the bureau chief. 2 identical people stood in front of him. It was hard to tell which was the real one. This was the most shocking ability of the 100 Faces Star-Lord. He was good at transforming into other people. This was the origin of the name 100 Faces Star-Lord. Tang Jing had seen this ability with his own eyes in Buzhou Mountain. Thus he was not very surprised. However, this was the bureau chief's first time seeing this scene. He was really scared out of his wits. He spat out a mouthful of blood and died with his eyes wide open. The mechanical warriors rushed out like a tide. The floor had completely cracked open. One by one, mechanical warriors rushed out from the ground. This underground was like an arsenal, hiding many mechanical warriors. The 100 Faces Star-Lord was indifferent. He slowly turned around and sternly shouted, "Stop!" Swoosh. All the mechanical warriors stopped attacking. They were suspicious. His appearance was no different from the bureau chief. The mechanical warriors used high-tech recognition technology to recognize the bureau chief as their master. At this moment, he had turned into the bureau chief's appearance. The mechanical warriors naturally treated him as their master. 100 Change Star-Lord smirked as he looked at the mechanical warrior. His mission was a success. He dared to take the risk because he had calculated this point. As long as he killed the bureau chief and took his place, he would turn into the bureau chief's appearance. The mechanical warriors would naturally become his subordinates. The mechanical warriors were not complicated like magical treasures that needed blood to recognize the owner. They also did not have those mysterious connections. Everything was based on technology. He was like a general inspecting his soldiers. He walked past the mechanical warriors one by one and examined them. Without a doubt, this was a powerful team. They were his true trusted subordinates who only listened to him. Junko was shocked to see the 100 Faces Star-Lord. One could imagine the shock in her heart. She knew a little about the 100 Faces Star-Lord's plan in advance. However, that was only on paper. It was far from the shock of seeing it with her own eyes. You guys are too big of an eyesore. I'd better keep you guys. The 100 Faces Star-Lord muttered to himself. He waved his hand and the ring on his finger flashed. All the mechanical warriors were kept inside. The Sumeru ring was his storage magical treasure. It was easy to keep these lifeless mechanical warriors. However, they had caused quite a commotion. He had already sensed that someone was coming this way. Go and deal with him. Take good care of yourself for the next period of time. You will be useful in the future, the 100 Faces Star-Lord instructed Junko. Junko nodded heavily. She picked up the corpse on the ground and quickly walked into the darkness. She looked back 3 times with each step. Under the dim light, the 100 Faces Star-Lord's expression was flickering. It gave off an indescribable feeling of horror. The 100 Faces Star-Lord sat on the sofa with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes slightly in the messy room as if none of this had anything to do with him. Dong dong dong. A series of hurried footsteps came from afar. His ears moved slightly but he still did not open his eyes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With a few piercing sounds, a few people suddenly appeared in the room. Without a doubt, these people could be considered as experts. However, when they saw the 100 Faces Star-Lord, they were all surprised. They looked at each other as if they did not expect to meet him here. They did not dare to act rashly. Instead, they stared at the 100 Faces Star-Lord as if waiting for him to wake up. The atmosphere was deadlocked and extremely stifling. Everyone's breathing became heavy. Sir, please come with us. One of them could not help but speak. The 100 Faces Star-Lord slowly opened his eyes as if he had just woken up. He did not put them in his eyes at all. He said lightly, "The master behind you wants to see me. Well, they have been looking for me for so long. It's time to meet them." Of course, the 100 Faces Star Sovereign knew who these people were. They were from the government, so he could smell their official aura from afar. At this moment, he had completely entered the role of a leader. Since he wanted to gain enough power, he would play a new role for a long time in the future. The expression of the people who came changed. Seeing that he was so easy to talk to and that there was no sign of the mechanical warriors, they felt relieved. At least they had successfully completed their mission. However, they did not know that they had brought back another person. It would cause earth-shaking changes and storms. Chapter 1273. Under the Night Sky. Everyone please search. Novel. Tang Jing stopped absorbing the power of the stars. The true energy flowing through his meridians was converted from the power of the stars. The red lunar beast also stopped. The father and son looked at each other, their eyes filled with joy. Footsteps sounded behind him. He turned around and saw Li Xiaotian standing behind him. "It's the middle of the night. Why are you here?" Tang Jing asked in surprise. For the past few days, Li Xiaotian had not been at home. He did not ask too much. After all, Li Xiaotian had his own things to do. Li Xiaotian looked at him deeply and said, "I have good news for you." Tang Jing raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh, what good news? Haven't you been looking for the leader's whereabouts? I just received accurate news that he has finally appeared in the capital." Li Xiaotian pointed at the ground and said. Tang Jing was not surprised at all. With his understanding of the leader, he would not leave the capital so easily. "Then bring me to him." Tang Jing struck while the iron was hot. Li Xiaotian wanted to say something but stopped. Tang Jing frowned and asked, "Is there a problem?" Li Xiaotian sighed and said, "Yes, our people were too late. He was taken away by someone from the government. As of now, I have not found out where he is." "The government took him away?" "Yes, the government has been looking for him. After all, his identity is special and he has the powerful mechanical warriors in his hands. Many people are coveting him." Tang Jing fell into silence. This was not difficult to understand. "How do you think he will be treated?" Tang Jing asked after a long time. Li Xiaotian seemed to have already thought about this problem and confidently said, "He won't have a good end. So many people are eyeing this piece of fatty meat. Since it's already in our mouths, how can we let him go? Even if he doesn't die, he'll still lose a layer of skin. Tang Jing couldn't help but think of that face. His intuition told him that it wasn't that simple, but he couldn't find a reasonable reason. Our pillow talk plan was very successful. Many high-ranking officials have a grudge against him. Since he has fallen into the enemy's hands, there is no way he can escape. Those people are fully aware that if they don't kill the snake, they will be harmed instead. They won't give him a chance to make a comeback, Li Xiaotian said solemnly. Tang Jing stared at Xiaotian, his eyes filled with indescribable confidence. In the end, he chose to believe in Li Xiaotian's judgment. Li Xiaotian's resourcefulness was unparalleled in the world. Indeed, there was no need to doubt her judgment. Then won't the chief become insignificant? Tang Jing asked. Li Xiaotian nodded and said, yes. His fall will inevitably lead to the rise of another group of people. Because of the work we did in the early stages, this group of people won't have too much enmity towards us. We can stop for the time being and don't have to worry about enmity from the government. Tang Jing praised Xiaotian and said, thank you. This is all thanks to you. If it weren't for Li Xiaotian's strategy, Tang Jing wouldn't have been able to do it so easily. Perhaps he would have been badly battered by this matter. His words came from the bottom of his heart. The corners of Li Xiaotian's mouth twitched slightly. She did her best to restrain the joy rippling from her heart. Tang Jing's gaze also became more tender. Tang Jing pretended not to see and patted her shoulder. It's been hard on you these days. You can have a good rest now. Li Xiaotian stubbornly shook her head. It's not hard at all. This is my life. If I have nothing to do, then I'll feel uncomfortable. I heard that you're looking for the whereabouts of the demon race. Perhaps I can help you a bit. Oh. Tang Jing's eyebrows jumped. He had been looking for the demon race for several days, but there had been no news. The demon race's strength is so strong. How could I ignore them? Although their whereabouts are mysterious, the technology of today's society is so advanced that it's still possible to find some clues. Li Xiaotian said with a smile of exultation. This sentence was simple, but Tang Jing understood that it must have involved a lot of unknown effort. In other words, Li Xiaotian was like a prophet. She knew that Tang Jing would definitely look for the demon race, so she made preparations beforehand and never gave up on this clue. Without a doubt, of all the people around him, only Li Xiaotian would think of this point. Everyone else's focus was on Tang Jing, and they practically revolved around him. Li Xiaotian was different. When she was in charge of the Li Palace, she was able to handle all kinds of situations by herself. In terms of strategy, no one else could compare. Tang Jing was as thin as hair and immediately understood this point. He gave her a grateful look and said, then what specific clues do you have? Qi Yu's whereabouts are extremely mysterious, but his subordinates may not be as cautious as him. Perhaps it could be said that they don't have his strength to completely hide. Recently, our people found the whereabouts of a certain person. Through him, we might be able to find Qi Yu. Oh, Saint King. You actually found his whereabouts? Tang Jing was stunned. He was truly shocked by this news. Saint King was the strongest of the demons that had returned. If not for Qi Yu's sudden appearance, the demons would definitely be led by Saint King. Li Xiaotian dared to track down the whereabouts of Saint King. This was extremely daring and was in line with her usual style of doing things. Li Xiaotian smiled faintly and said somewhat proudly, this is the information we obtained after spending a lot of effort and braving great dangers. We don't know what Saint King's goal is, but he really did appear. Then where is he now? Tang Jing asked. The 100,000 Mountains. Huh. Why did he go to the 100,000 Mountains? Tang Jing was confused. There were no more monsters in the 100,000 Mountains, and there was no formation to protect it. It was simply an abandoned place. What other secrets were there worth exploring? Li Xiaotian shook her head. We don't know exactly what he went to do, but he did appear in the 100,000 Mountains. Tang Jing frowned tightly. Qi Yu was very smart and would not do useless work. He must have a motive for sending his trusted general to the 100,000 Mountains. Is he alone? No, he still has subordinates. He's so mysterious. He definitely won't do anything good. Li Xiaotian asserted. Then in order to find Qi Yu, don't I have to go to the 100,000 Mountains again? Tang Jing was conflicted. The 100,000 Mountains was very important to him. The Witch clan and Xiao Bai both came from the 100,000 Mountains. He had entered and left the 100,000 Mountains several times, harvesting many things and obtaining many fortuitous encounters. The most important thing was that there was a Buzhou mountain in the 100,000 mountains. This was the place that was most closely connected to the sky beyond heaven. Back then, when the heaven stairway was still around, the two worlds were connected at the Buzhou mountain. This meant that the peak of the Buzhou mountain was the weakest point of the separation between the two worlds. Now, even other places could use the mountain river blood sacrifice formation to summon back the devil clan. In other words, the spatial isolation of other places had become weaker. Didn't that mean that the isolation of the peak of the Buzhou mountain was even weaker? At the thought of this, his heart trembled. Could it be that the devil clan had also discovered this point, which was why they had traveled thousands of miles to the 100,000 mountains? He shook his head. He could not figure out the reason, but one thing was certain. It was necessary to go to the 100,000 mountains. Whether it was to find Qiyu or to explore the secret of the separation between the two worlds. Li Xiaotian had already guessed his thoughts. She asked tentatively, "Are we going to the 100,000 mountains?" Tang Jing stared at her with a burning gaze and corrected her, "I'm going." "I'll go too. I have the strength to protect myself." Li Xiaotian volunteered. Looking at her perseverance, Tang Jing could not help but recall the time with her in the 100,000 mountains. At that time, she was still the holy maiden of Li Palace, cunning and suspicious, completely unfathomable. However, Tang Jing had accidentally snatched away the heaven-shocking bow and shooting sun arrows, causing her to fly into a rage. Facing Tang Jing's fiery gaze, Li Xiaotian did not back down at all. She was very clear about her identity, or rather, her awkwardness. The other women were more or less related to Tang Jing, but she was the only one who was more awkward. Furthermore, the other few people were very repulsive to her, which made her feel even more threatened. This time, she was the one who discovered the information, so she had to seize this opportunity to travel with Tang Jing. How could she miss such a good opportunity? "Alright, you can travel with me, but this trip is dangerous and unpredictable. You have to listen to my orders." Tang Jing compromised. Li Xiaotian had done so much for him, so he couldn't reject her in such a cold-blooded manner. Moreover, he now believed that he had the ability to protect her. At most, he would take her into the Sumeru world and everything would be fine. Seeing that his perseverance had borne fruit, Li Xiaotian was beaming with joy, and the corner of his mouth revealed a smile that made one's heart tremble. Her charming techniques had unknowingly become more and more profound, and she truly had the ability to captivate souls. In addition, we have already completed the other matter you instructed us to do last time. However, the effect does not seem to be very good. Li Xiaotian changed the topic and said worriedly. Tang Jing curiously waited for her to continue. The former subordinates of the Yellow Emperor are gathering pure yang energy from the various life totems in an attempt to condense the soul of the Golden Crow. We have spread this news, and I believe that the demon clan already knows about it. Li Xiaotian paused for a moment as if she was puzzled and said resentfully, "However, the demon clan did not make a move, nor did they stop the actions of the former subordinates of the Yellow Emperor. In addition, according to the location you provided, we continued to investigate and did find several life totems. Unfortunately, the former subordinates of the Yellow Emperor have already arrived and gathered pure yang energy. We have rushed to nothing." Tang Jing revealed a disappointed expression and let out a long sigh. Originally, he had hoped that the demon clan would attack the former subordinates of the Yellow Emperor after they found out about this, and thus prevent them from condensing the soul of the Golden Crow. Now, this wonderful plan of a third party benefiting from the fight between the Sandpiper and the clam did not work. He had thought too simply of these two forces. Man proposes, God disposes. Don't worry too much. Tang Jing comforted, "Qiyu missed this great opportunity. If the soul of the Golden Crow is really condensed, then he will have to suffer." Chapter 1274. Early in the morning, the villa was in an uproar. It was all because Tang Jing had decided to go to the 100,000 mountains with Li Xiaotian. When the others heard this, they were very agitated and looked at Li Xiaotian indignantly. Although they did not say much, the meaning was very clear. Why did she have to go and not others? Tang Jing had a headache. He scratched his head in distress and tried his best to persuade her. However, when women were unreasonable, they would not listen to anything. Especially when there were several women, it was really a big show. The so-called happiness of having multiple partners was not so easy to enjoy. Li Xiaotian did not interrupt and sat quietly at the side as if it had nothing to do with him. Yi Dingdang had a fiery temper. Like setting off firecrackers, she said with a crackling sound, "Why can she go but we can't?" The others nodded in agreement. "This is not fair." Fang Shishir said faintly as she shared a common enemy. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at this group of people and explained, "This time I am going on official business to find the whereabouts of the Devil clan. Why would so many people go? It's not like it's a tour. Moreover, this trip is extremely dangerous. If there are too many people, it will be more restrictive. We also have the power to protect ourselves. Moreover, many of us have been to the 100,000 mountains before and have rich experience. There will not be any danger." Fang Shishir was encouraged by Yi Dingdang and argued. Yi Dingdang agreed, "Right, we are not people without the strength to truss up a chicken. What are we afraid of? We can even help. Dingdang, you have just recovered and must rest at home. So, no matter how much you shout, you can't go this time." Tang Jing stared at the agitated Yi Dingdang and said sternly. Yi Dingdang pouted and said, "If I don't go, then I won't go. But others can go, such as Shishir." Tang Jing still shook his head. "Shishir can't. Her trip to the heavenly gate has just ended. She also needs to rest at home. What about Fu Yao?" Yi Dingdang turned her eyes and pointed at Empyrean Fairy. Unexpectedly, the Empyrean Fairy did not cooperate at all. She shook her head and said, "I'm not going." The world was in chaos. She already had a strong sense of crisis, so she decided to cultivate at home. This was the most important thing. Yi Dingdang rolled her eyes helplessly. She couldn't do anything to the Empyrean Fairy. Her gaze turned and landed on Wu and Lu Qingmei. As for Princess An, she automatically filtered it out. Princess An was an unstable factor. If she was allowed to travel with Tang Jing, it would be like sending a lamb to a tiger's den. After all, everyone knew that Princess An had Sima Zhao's heart. It was impossible to create an opportunity for her to be alone with Tang Jing. And wanted to volunteer, but her status as a princess did not have much use in this big family. In other words, she did not have much deterrence. In addition, there were more and more business exchanges with foreign countries. And also participated and assisted Mu Hongyan. She really could not leave. Seeing Yi Dingdang's gaze sweep over them, Wu and Lu Qingmei raised their heads at the same time. Wu and Li Xiaotian had a very special relationship. They were even sworn enemies in the beginning. Especially the martial organization and Li Palace had a very deep relationship. With these two by his side, Tang Jing felt that he did not need to do anything else. Perhaps the two of them would ignite a barrel of gunpowder. As for Lu Qingmei, Tang Jing moved his head and looked at her with a gentle gaze. Lu Qingmei was very understanding. She had changed from an ice beauty to a caring big sister. She had no regrets and did not have many requests. Thinking of this, Tang Jing felt a little ashamed. Lu Qingmei was the daughter of a large family. Her father was a governor. She had always been neglected by him, but she had no complaints. Immediately, a strong sense of guilt welled up in his heart. He said, "Sister Mei will go with us." Her relationship with Lu Qingmei was becoming more and more public. Although it was not publicly announced, everyone was well aware of it. Seeing him directly call her sister Mei, the others were not surprised. They were only surprised by his choice. Lu Qingmei also looked at Tang Jing in astonishment. She rarely carried out missions with Tang Jing. She mostly assisted Mu Hongyan in dealing with business matters. Immediately she felt flattered. However, looking at the complicated gazes of the others, she was too embarrassed to show it. But her eyes had already betrayed her. Tang Jing understood her eager eyes. He smiled at her and said, "The people here have more or less been to the 100,000 mountains. Sister Mei has not been there. She has been working very hard. This time she will go out with me to get some fresh air." Since he said so, the others naturally would not refute. In fact, Yi Dingdang and the others wanted to go with Wu. They could balance Li Xiaotian, but it was better than nothing. It was better than letting the two of them go alone. Lu Qingmei asked excitedly, "Do I need to prepare anything? Do you want to book a plane ticket?" Tang Jing smiled and said, "I will take care of everything." Then he looked at the others and gave them a good warning. With the Empyrean Fairy at home and Tian Chanzi supporting them, there would not be any problems. Since he returned from the Gate of Heaven, Tian Chanzi had been in seclusion. It seemed that he felt the pressure from Tang Jing. Tian Chanzi decided to work hard and threatened to greatly improve his cultivation, leaving Tang Jing a few streets behind. Several people came to the courtyard to see him off. Tang Jing used his mind and the somersault cloud appeared out of thin air in the courtyard. It was the first time for the others to see the somersault cloud. They widened their eyes in surprise and asked all at once, "This is my new means of transportation. It's called the somersault cloud." Tang Jing introduced. "Is this really a cloud?" The others looked at it as if they were looking at a mirror. If it was a magic weapon they would not be surprised. But this was clearly a white cloud. Empyrean Fairy could not hide her surprise and asked, "When did you get the somersault cloud?" "This is related to the dragon clan." Tang Jing said simply and did not explain further. "The two of you can stand on it?" Li Xiaotian and Lu Qingmei looked at each other. Li Xiaotian could not wait to jump on it. It was very steady as if he was stepping on flat ground. Lu Qingmei carefully walked up. Her cheeks were red and she was extremely excited. Her eyes were rolling around as she continuously sized up the somersault cloud. Tang Jing flew up the somersault cloud and waved to everyone saying, "Let's go." Whoosh! The somersault cloud rose into the air and flew into the sky. In the eyes of others, this was just an ordinary cloud. Because of the lingering clouds, the two people's figures were basically covered. Even with the government's precision equipment, it was difficult to discover the mystery of this white cloud. Everyone retracted their gaze and the few women looked at each other. Yi Dingdang said, "Wu Shishir, come to my room. I have something to tell you." Wu looked at her deeply and nodded. She then entered her room with Fang Shishir. Empyrean Fairy did not care about these things and directly returned to her room to cultivate. Princess and curled her lips. She had no choice but to go to the company with Mu Hongyan. Three women were a drama. The three women sat together and looked at each other. Yi Dingdang took a deep breath and took the lead to break the silence. "I will speak first. Everyone has seen today's situation. What are your thoughts?" Wu Gujing looked at her without any ripples. She did not know what she was selling. Fang Shishir knew that Yi Dingdang was strange and had many ideas. For her to be so serious there must be a hidden meaning. She said, "Everyone is not an outsider. You should get straight to the point." Yi Dingdang took a deep breath and said, "All right, then I will get straight to the point. Everyone's relationship with Tang Zheng, I don't need to repeat it, right?" With that said, Fang Shishir and Wu both sat up straight at the same time. Fang Shishir's face flushed red and said coquettishly, "Dingding, why are you saying this?" Yi Dingdang seemed to have thrown caution to the wind and said, "Shishir, don't try to hide it. Everyone is not an outsider. Everyone's relationship with Tang Zheng is obvious. It's just that no one has pointed it out." Wu looked at Yi Dingdang flabbergasted. She seemed to be shocked by her actions. However, she was after all a person who had seen the world. She did not panic. Instead, she looked at her with interest, waiting for her to continue. "Let me ask you a question. Will you leave him?" Yi Dingdang stared at the two and asked. Wu and Fang Shishir looked at each other and shook their heads. No. She was also a straightforward person. She was not inferior to Yi Dingdang. She was just a little less strange. Since the other party had pointed it out, she naturally would not be overly sentimental. "What about you, Shishir?" Yi Dingdang asked. Fang Shishir hesitated for a moment before firmly shaking her head. She had experienced so much with Tang Zheng. No matter how difficult it was, she would not leave him. Yi Dingdang shrugged her shoulders and spread out her hands and said, "Isn't that it? I will not leave him either." After pausing for a moment, she asked again, "Then do you know how many women he has relations with? Or is she related to anyone else in this house?" "Lu Qingmei, Teacher Lu." Wu and Fang Shishir said in unison. Yi Dingdang nodded and sighed, "That's right. It seems that everyone is very smart. I never thought that Teacher Lu would have an affair with him. His legs are really long. That year in school we did not even notice. He is just a playboy." Fang Shishir said with hatred. She was not angry but her heart was a little sour. Yi Dingdang emphasized, "Of course he is a playboy. But that does not mean that we like him. Gold is not pure and no one is perfect. His other strengths are enough to cover up this weakness." Wu calmly said, "I don't care what his strengths and weaknesses are. I like him as a person. That is enough." Yi Dingdang and Fang Shishir looked at each other in shock. They never thought that Wu, who was not good with words, would say such words. These words seemed simple, but it actually contained her deep feelings for Tang Zheng. This playboy, what virtue and ability does he have to have so many beauties like him? He still dares to fool around. I really want to break his third leg." Yi Dingdang faintly said as she curled her lips. Fang Shishir awkwardly smiled and urged, "Dingding, why did you call us here? Quickly say it." "Since we already know that he is a playboy, then we must guard against him being a playboy and hooking up with other women. In the past, you and I have always been doing this. Now it seems that just the two of us are too weak. We must unite all the forces that can be united and form an alliance." Chapter 1275. Marshall looked at Yi Dingdang in astonishment. Her mind raced, and after a moment of silence she asked, "What do you want me to do?" She already understood Yi Dingdang's thoughts and naturally reached a tacit understanding with him. Yi Dingdang beamed with joy and said, "I knew I found the right person. I really didn't misjudge you." Saying that, he heavily patted Marshall's shoulder. Then she impatiently said, "We must guard to the death so that the other women have no place to attack. This way we can ensure that no one else enters." Marshall remained calm and asked, "Can you control him?" Yi Dingdang raised his neck and proudly said, "Of course I can control him. He doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. What can I control?" Marshall chuckled and did not say a word. However, the meaning was clear. She did not believe these bold words. Yi Dingdang felt weak in his heart. He also understood that these words were pleasant to hear. In reality, the building in the sky collapsed without a single attack. "The 3 of us working together can't even take care of him?" Yi Dingdang said, unwilling to admit defeat. "His legs are on his body. Moreover, our strength can't compare to his. Do you think we can catch up to him?" Marshall asked. Yi Dingdang's face was resentful. His bold words just now had suffered a huge blow. He faintly said, "Then what can you do? When we deal with the enemy, we first have to figure out who the enemy is and what kind of strength they have. Only then can we formulate the corresponding countermeasures. This is the art of war. Similarly, we can also deal with him in the same way." "He is not the enemy," Fang Shishir reminded in a low voice. Yi Dingdang waved his hand and said, "Of course he is not the enemy. This sounds interesting. Continue speaking." Marshall had rich battle experience and spoke logically. "We can't control Tang Zheng, but we can control those women so that they can't get close to him." Yi Dingdang's eyes lit up. She clapped her hands in agreement. "Yes, you're absolutely right. This is the best way to contain them from the source. It's more effective." Marshall seemed to have been affected by Yi Dingdang's emotions as he analyzed incessantly, "But before we do this, we must distinguish clearly, those people are our competitors, we need to be on guard against them. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Of course it's the woman in our villa." Fang Shishir nodded in agreement. Wu also nodded in agreement and said, "That's right, then we have to distinguish who is our competitor in this villa. After all, there are so many people." "Princess Anne," Yi Dingdang blurted out. "Li Xiaotian," Marshall added. "Teacher Lu." As Fang Shishir spoke, she suddenly shook her head. "Teacher Lu and Tang Zheng are already together. It will be difficult to separate them. Then we'll ignore Lu Laoshi for the time being." Yi Dingdang also understood the difficulty of this matter, so she compromised. "Where are the others?" Wu asked. "Who else is there?" "Mu Hongyan, Tang Linger and Fu Yao." Fang Shishir corrected her and said, "Sister Mu and Tang Zheng wouldn't be related, right?" Marshall and Yi Dingdang fell into a dilemma. Yi Dingdang recalled bits and pieces of these 2 people, but it seemed that they did not have any intimate interactions. The most important thing was that the difference between the 2 was too great. After all, Mu Hongyan was Nana's mother. If Tang Zheng heard this analysis, he would definitely cry out in relief. It was fortunate that he acted in secret. Otherwise, if this matter was dug up, it would definitely be explosive news. Linger shouldn't be, right? After all, Tang Zheng has always treated her as a little sister. Fang Shishir said again. "That might not be the case. What is Linger?" "She is a 100-year-old ginseng. She also treats Tang Zheng as her master. Although they call each other brother and sister, Linger worships him. What if she takes the initiative to give herself to him?" Yi Dingdang analyzed. Fang Shishir smiled coquettishly and said, "Don't shoot your mouth off. Linger is such a pure girl. Why are you talking about her like that?" Yi Dingdang was also a little embarrassed. She curled her lips and explained, "Aren't I just saying the worst result? Then only Fu Yao is left? I heard that when you were in the Gate of Heaven, the Emperor of Heaven insisted on letting Tang Zheng and Fu Yao get married?" Regarding this matter, Wu Lu had heard of it, but he had never confirmed it. "Yes, of course there is such a thing," Yi Dingdang said with a smile of exultation. "You don't know how bad the Emperor of Heaven is. He actually randomly matched a couple and even wanted to betroth his own woman to Tang Zheng. This is too bad. There is no first-come first-served meaning at all. He is the Emperor of Heaven. His strength is high, so why would he care about the so-called first-come first-served?" Wu Lu shrugged as if she understood the Emperor of Heaven's actions very well. "Didn't Tang Zheng sternly refuse?" Fang Shishir defended Tang Zheng. "What if the Emperor of Heaven insists on doing things his own way? What is done cannot be undone. What can he do? The Emperor of Heaven wouldn't be so unreasonable, right? Fang Shishir said nervously. Yi Dingdang laughed dryly, clearly not believing the Emperor of Heaven's way of doing things. Since that is the case, then Fu Yao cannot be let off. From now on we must strictly guard against her, Wu Yigui said decisively. Yi Dingdang nodded in agreement. What about the others? Li Xiaotian and Princess N are the key personnel to keep an eye on. We absolutely cannot let them succeed. Wu Lu warned. In addition, Ling Er and Mu Hongyan can be temporarily put aside. After all, there are no signs that there is a trend in that direction. Alright, let's first concentrate our firepower and guard against these three people. Yi Dingdang and Fang Shishir looked at each other and agreed to this plan. Now let's discuss how to guard against them. Don't they have 3 people? We also happen to have 3 people. Once they have the chance to be alone with Tang Jing, we must insert ourselves and make it impossible for them to succeed. Yi Dingdang nodded approvingly, looking at Wu Yigui with a complicated gaze. She had always thought that Wu Yigui was not good at speaking and was simple-minded, but now it seemed that it was not as simple as she thought. They were all astute people. There is another method. I saw it on the internet. Fang Shishir suddenly said, her voice gradually becoming softer like a mosquito. Shishir, speak louder. There are only a few of us and no one is eavesdropping. What are you afraid of? Quickly tell us what method it is. Fang Shishir's face flushed red as if she was drunk. She stammered, doesn't the internet say that if a man is squeezed dry, he will not have the heart to spend? Yi Dingdang and Wu Yigui were shocked. Soon after, Yi Dingdang clapped her hands and laughed. Ha Shishir, when did you become so bad? You actually thought of this method. Fang Shishir wished she could find a hole to hide in. She hung her head and said, I didn't want to say it but you forced me to. Now you are laughing at me. Yi Dingdang proudly hugged Fang Shishir's shoulder and mischievously smiled. When did I laugh at you? I was just shocked by this method. I never thought you would think of this method. Then how about this method? Of course this is good. Yi Dingdang's mouth twitched. She pretended to be carefree and said, I will leave this difficult task to you. When he comes back you can squeeze him dry. Fang Shishir was greatly embarrassed and quickly broke free from her evil clutches. She exhaled and said, You do it yourself. I'm not going. Is that so? When the time comes, don't blame me for not being a friend and not asking you to share. Yi Dingdang pretended to be heroic and said. With how thick-skinned she was, how could Fang Shishir be her opponent? Her face and ears turned red as she panted from her words. Wu coughed and said, The method has been set. Then we will divide the work and determine our own goals. The few of them laughed and laughed. Tang Jing and his group had already flown to the sky above Dianan. The somersault cloud was extremely fast, much faster than the flying speed of the war spirit sword. When Tang Jing once again came to this land in Dianan, countless familiar images appeared in his mind. Li Xiaotian had lost his memory and did not have any sense of familiarity with the 10,000 mountains. He only looked at the boundless mountains and his shock was beyond words. Lu Qingmei did not dare to open her eyes at first. Only after flying for a long distance did she muster up the courage to open her eyes. However, her hands were firmly holding onto Tang Jing's sleeves. Looking down at the vast forest below, Lu Qingmei was also shocked by this scene and was speechless for a long time. Tang Jing briefly introduced the 10,000 mountains and ordered the somersault cloud to fly downwards. They did not go to Dianan City. That was the Long family's territory. He did not want to have too much to do with the Long family, let alone have any conflicts. However, he did not know that Long Shenyuan had already been taken in by Ji Wuxiang. The entire Dianan had become Ji Wuxiang's territory. Ever since the formation of the 10,000 mountains was broken, humans had slowly begun to set foot in this area. Especially the official forces, who were advancing step by step, seemed to want to understand the mysterious mysteries of the 10,000 mountains. However, the 10,000 mountains was vast, and the officials' actions were slow, and they had been wandering around the periphery. Looking down from the sky, one could clearly see that a large area of forest around the 10,000 mountains had been cut down, revealing a yellow-brown bare land just like a bald man. The roar of helicopters lingered in the sky, and several helicopters were patrolling. Tang Jing looked at this scene in surprise. He did not expect the officials to mobilize so many people. Were they going to flatten the 10,000 mountains? Overestimating yourself. He pondered for a moment and made a judgment. Will they find us? Lu Qingmei asked worriedly. Don't worry, we will directly enter the core area of the 10,000 mountains. Tang Jing comforted her and rode the somersault cloud. With a whoosh, they swept across the sky and flew away from the busy machines. From afar he saw the tribe of the Witch clan. After several great battles, the huge stronghold was already in ruins. "Look, there are people." Li Xiaotian pointed to the ruins of the tribal square and said. Back then, the four symbols venerables stood in the square. Now, it was only a ruin, but many people were studying something in the square. The officials had arrived at the tribe before, so they were very clear about the situation of the tribe. Now that they had come here again, they definitely wanted to find something. However, the Witch clan had already left, so this tribe had no meaning. No matter how much they studied, they would not gain anything. Tang Jing did not take it to heart and directly flew over. Not long after, he saw a familiar scene. The Witch clan's holy land. This was the place where Xiaobai was born. It could be considered the core area of the 10,000 mountains, and there were no signs of machines. Chapter 1276. The Witch clan's holy land was a mountain peak. It was not steep and had lush vegetation. In the past, other than plants, the holy land was dead silent. There were no animals, but now it was thriving and full of life. The holy land was a silent volcano, and the cave at the top of the mountain was particularly eye-catching. Xiaobai had descended from there. Tang Jing locked onto the cave entrance at a glance. He happened to walk past the cave entrance and walk straight in. "There's someone?" Li Xiaotian and Lu Qingmei also frowned at the same time. They asked with rapt attention, "Who is it?" Tang Jing shook his head. The distance was too far. Was Chu the Saint King or someone else? "What should we do?" Tang Jing pondered for a moment, then said, "Since we're here, let's take things as they come. Of course we should chase after them." With that, the somersault cloud landed on the mountain top with a whoosh. The three of them jumped off the somersault cloud and looked around vigilantly. There was no movement at all. Other than the sound of insects, there was nothing else. "The other party seems to be alone," Li Xiaotian said suspiciously. Tang Jing did not say a word and walked into the cave with large strides. The other two followed behind him and paid 120% attention. The familiar scenes in the cave entered his eyes one by one, as if he had returned to a familiar moment. That time he had entered the cave alone, filled with anxiety and anticipation. If Xiaobai was awake, he would definitely like the feeling of returning to his hometown. Xiaobai was sleeping soundly at home, so naturally it was because of this scene. The walls of the cave were suffused with a red light, illuminating the path ahead. They meandered down and entered the depths of the mountain, as if they were going straight to the core of the earth. Li Xiaotian and Lu Qingmei were new here. They were like curious babies constantly looking around. A hot feeling gradually assaulted them, and the air was filled with the smell of heat. Tang Jing's heart tightened. Wasn't the magma at the bottom of the volcano swallowed up by Xiaobai? Why is there a heat wave? He suppressed the misgivings in his heart and used his eyes to signal the other two to be careful. After advancing for a long distance, the heat wave hit them in the face. It was almost unbearable, and even their breaths carried a scalding smell. "This heat seems to be even more terrifying than the last time I came." Tang Jing, who was immune to both heat and cold, actually felt the heat, which was enough to prove its power. Li Xiaotian and Lu Qingmei's foreheads were already covered in sweat, and their breathing had also become rapid. "Almost there." Tang Jing reminded them, and the three of them immediately slowed down their pace. While resisting the erosion of the heat with difficulty, they also paid attention to the situation in front of them. Boom. With a loud bang, the earth shook and the mountains shook. The three of them staggered and almost fell to the ground. "What's wrong?" Lu Qingmei asked in a panic. Tang Jing's expression suddenly changed. The cave was still shaking as if it was about to collapse. "Don't worry, I'm here." He was even more anxious to know what was going on, so he quickened his pace. The other two adapted to the shaking, stabilized their bodies, and quickly rushed deeper into the cave. A fiery red light came from the depths of the cave, and the heat wave hit them in the face. The air seemed to be boiling, and the blood seemed to be evaporating from the blood vessels. However, in the red light that covered the sky and earth, they also saw the scene in front of them. Dozens of people stood in the narrow space, and it seemed very crowded. They were mumbling something as if they were not afraid of the overflowing heat wave. The magma was at their feet, constantly rolling and bubbling, and could soar into the sky at any time. "Why is there magma again?" Tang Jing clearly remembered that the magma was sucked into Xiaobai's stomach. He shook his head and did not investigate but stared straight at this group of people. Demons. Their identity was unquestionable. Li Palace's information was accurate. The demons were indeed active in the 100,000 mountains, and Saint King was not the only one. He searched for Saint King's figure in the crowd but did not find him. Could it be that Saint King is somewhere else? He began to feel suspicious. No matter where Saint King is, the demons must be up to something by stirring up trouble here. Just what are they doing? What? A demon jumped into the rolling magma, and before he could even let out a scream, he was turned into nothingness. This scene scared the three so much that their backs were drenched in cold sweat. What was going on? Boom. With a loud sound, a stream of magma soared into the sky, directly colliding with the dome above their heads and creating a large crater. Their feet shook violently, and the three hurriedly stabilized their bodies. Ignoring the shock in their hearts, they looked up and saw that there were already 2 craters in the dome. Their hearts trembled at the same time as they remembered the loud sound just now. Could it be that someone had jumped into the magma, and then caused this series of reactions? What was puzzling was that the demons sacrificed themselves. What was the purpose of this? The three looked at each other at a loss. What? Another person jumped into the magma, and the magma soared into the sky again. The earth shook and rocks fell from the inner walls. Their scheme is definitely not small. We must stop them. Li Xiaoyan's eyes flashed coldly and said first. Tang Jing nodded in agreement and said, I'll go stop them. He laughed bitterly in his heart. He did not think that he would save the demons and prevent them from dying. Whoosh. When he jumped down from a high place, the demons also discovered their whereabouts and shouted one after another, Stop them, kill them without mercy. Tang Jing snorted and grabbed a demon's shoulder and threw him into the sky. However, the nearby demons had already roared and rushed up. I'm saving you. You really don't know what's good for you. Tang Jing said hatefully. Who wants you to save us? The rest of you hurry up and jump in. A demon yelled loudly, and as soon as his voice fell, several demons jumped into the lava one after another. Immediately, a few more streams of lava soared into the sky, crashing into the dome. The earth shook even more violently, and the cave seemed like it would collapse at any time. Tang Jing wanted to save people, but the demons wanted to die, so how could it be so easy? So, after he grabbed a few demons, several more demons jumped into the magma. He had no way to save them. Li Xiaotian stared at the demons and with a flash of inspiration shouted, As long as we don't let the demons jump into the magma, everything will be fine. Force them back. With her reminder, Tang Jing seemed to wake up from a dream, and joy appeared in his eyes. The demons wanted to jump into the magma. As long as he did not let them succeed, their life and death had nothing to do with him. Thus Tang Jing began to use his killing move. He drew his bow and with a whoosh the shooting sun arrow flew out, directly piercing a demon that tried to jump into the magma. The other party fell on the edge of the magma, and was only a step away from the magma. He could only despair, his pupils dilated, and there was no more vitality. Everyone jump in. Seeing this, the demons knew that their plan would be completely ruined, and urged in a flustered and exasperated manner. Plop. Magma splashed up like flowers. These demons were not afraid of death at all, as if they were unafraid of death. Run faster, or my shooting sun arrow is faster. Tang Jing was anxious. With a thought, the speed of the shooting sun arrow increased greatly, and with only an afterimage, it directly pierced through a few demons, preventing them from jumping into the magma. However, this was a drop in the bucket. Most of the demons jumped into the magma. Immediately the earth shook and dozens of magma soared into the sky, hitting the dome and leaving holes. Swish. A strange red light sprinkled down from the dome, enveloping everyone. Ah! Lu Qingmei and Li Xiaotian cried out in alarm at the same time. The skin on their faces seemed to be on fire, about to ignite. There's something wrong with this light. Tang Jing turned pale with fright. With a wave of his hand, the sacred armor shield flew out, covering the two like a large umbrella. Boom, boom, boom. The earth shook incessantly and the magma boiled. The rocks above their heads fell one by one, smashing on the sacred armor shield. This place is going to collapse. Li Xiaotian shouted. Tang Jing's face was solemn. He also realized this point. Moreover, from the boiling magma, he seemed to understand a little bit of the demon's intention. The demons seemed to want to awaken this volcano. This volcano had been dormant for countless years. What was the use of awakening it? What benefits would it bring to the demons? Tang Jing could not guess, but it was definitely of great use to the demons. Otherwise, the demons would not have sacrificed so much. Damn demons, they would rather sacrifice their own lives to awaken the volcano. The eruption of the volcano will be an incalculable disaster for the 100,000 mountains. He had never seen a volcano erupt with his own eyes, but he could guess its dangers. Furthermore, this volcano was probably different from the other volcanoes, and its power could not be compared to the other volcanoes. The vegetation in the 100,000 mountains was lush and the scenery was beautiful. Although there was a dangerous place like the prehistoric Heavenly Tomb, most of it still looked like a primitive forest. If it was destroyed by the volcano, it would definitely be an ecological disaster. Tang Jing was filled with regret. Why didn't he arrive a step earlier? That way he could have seen through the demon's scheme and avoided all of this. There were no ifs in this world and there was no medicine for regret. He suppressed all sorts of complicated thoughts in time. The demons were all dead, and the volcanic eruption could not be reversed. The only thing he could do was to leave this place first and avoid being affected by the impact. Let's go. Tang Jing shouted, holding onto their hands, one on the left and one on the right, allowing the sacred armor shield to float above their heads, blocking the falling rocks. Crush. The magma rushed up like a flood, rushing towards them along the cave. The cliff was also melted, joining the army of magma. In an instant, the cave was completely engulfed by the magma, and surged towards the three of them. The magma was like a huge wave, constantly smashing against the ground, destroying everything in its path. The three of them were truly shocked when they saw this scene at close range. Especially the monstrous heat wave, it was as if it wanted to evaporate all the water on their bodies and turn them into mummies. The magma was getting closer and closer. Although their speed was fast, the road was winding and the mountains were shaking. Huge rocks fell from the sky like a torrential rain. Boom. With a loud sound, the area in front of them collapsed, blocking their path. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.